The road to $10,000 runs through Pocono Raceway. This is round number 5 of 10 on the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series on LSRTV, presented by Double Clutch, winonmonday.com. Tim Terry and Evan Basoko here to call all the action for you. We're just a few moments away from going racing at Pocono. And after tonight, Evan, we'll be halfway. We'll know who's the favorites, who's the contenders, and essentially who's the pretenders to lock into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. This race could very well change everything.
And we've seen all these races pretty much go the same way. We have an early caution, a big long green flag stretch, and then really cautions come out at the end. And we've seen some surprise winners so far. We've seen some guys dominate. Some people that we've expected to be up at the front of the field have had that success that we were anticipating, but some of them haven't quite finished where they deserve to so far. And you mentioned after this race is going to be done with the first half of the season, it's going to be interesting to see where the points stand at it tonight.
And after 4 races, if you don't include the one drop race, if you're new to this NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series, these drivers have 10 races. They count their best 9 towards the championship chase. And when you look at the standings coming in, when you don't factor in that drop, Landon Harrison is your point leader. It's tied between Landon Harrison and Richard Doucette, but Richard Doucette suspended last week. Get into more of that a little bit later. But Landon Harrison is your point leader. Josh Berry, 2-back. Robert Hall, 3-back. Brian Blackford, Chris Overland, Rob Ackley, Mitchell Hunt, Patrick Baldwin, Brandon Chaburko, top 10. Rich Doucette last week suspended after hitting the incident threshold, Evan, that they have in this series. You're allowed an X amount of points if you cause X amount of incidents, and the race officials deem that it is your fault. You get X amount of points. Anyways, it adds up to a driver being suspended if they hit a certain amount of points. And Rich Doucette suspended last week, stemming from the wreck that happened at the end of the race. Rich was running 7th, and he was told by race officials, stay out of the way, get down low, don't get in anybody's way. And he causes a wreck, ends up being involved in a wreck, and race officials told him to stay low, and race officials also gave him full credit on the wreck at the end of the race. So, it's both sides of the coin there, Evan, but nevertheless, Rich Doucette, good start to the season, but he is suspended. He's probably not going to vie for the championship, but this series, you're aiming for the top 20 to get into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship coming up, starting in February, or anticipated start date is February, so that's what you're aiming for, is these drivers get ready to grid. It's a huge field. It's a huge racetrack, so we got a couple of moments here, Evan, before we get going. It looks like we are going to start 43 here this evening. A couple of drivers did not take time, but on the front row, it's Rich Doucette's teammate. He's had a tough season himself, trying to claw his way back up into the top 20. It's the Double Clutch 26 of Chad Lawton. To the outside, going to be the 52 car. That's going to be Pat Baldwin.
Take a look at the second row behind them. The third starting position going to belong to the 87 of Trey Edson, and then Robert Hall in the 30 machine going to be starting in 4th.
Here's a driver that's scratching the surface of the top 10 in the point standings. It's Brandon Hoff in the 23. Watch for him to do things this evening. To the outside, it's the RealLucky.com number 19 of Mitchell Hunt.
Right behind them, we got Dylan Duvall in the 42 machine starting in the 7th spot. And how about Josh Berry at the 91 starting 8th? He's 3rd in the championship standings.
Yeah, Chris Overland starting in position number 9. He's had a solid start to the season so far. He's in the top 10 of the point standings. And to the outside, 58, Kenny Humpy.
Next row is the 57 and the 17 of PJ Sturgis and Justin Trombley, respectively, starting positions 11th and 12th.
You got Brad Mayher rolling from position number 13 as the field does begin to roll. That's the 00 car. And scheduled to start 14th, but not on the grid, is Paul Kashiba.
Back behind them, the 15th starting position going to belong to the number 53 of Brandon Hawk. He's going to be joined with the 89 machine of Landon Harrison starting 16th.
And that is your point leader in the 89. In your next row, Justin Bolton in the 36. And your surprise winner from last week, and I say surprise winner because we really didn't talk about him until the last 5 laps of the race, Dumpy, John Gorlinski starts 18th.
The number 22 of Rob Ackley going to hit the grid 19th position, and also the 82 of Alex Warren going to round out the top 20.
Ashley Miller electing to start from pit road from this race. He'll start in, well, he was supposed to be starting 21st, but he won't start there. Brandon Schmidt will start on the outside in the 3 car.
23rd starting position going to belong to the 37 of Stephen Gilbert. The 31 of Sasha Wessler scheduled to start 24th. Also going to start this race from pit road.
Brian Day will make up position 25 to the outside. A former winner here at Pocono, John Adams.
You got Alex Scribner and Brandon Bowie on the second row, positions 27 and 28.
Jeremy Lukaska and Tyler Laughlin will roll off positions 29 and 30.
31st position going to Brian Blackford and Nicholas Morse, 32nd.
Andrew Fayash in third, 157, and Charlie Foster in the 13.
Amia J starting 35th, and Brandon Chaburko, 36th.
As we continue down the lineup, 37th is Billy Price. Tom Moustakas will start 38th.
Shane Miller, last car to take a qualifying time, going to hit the grid 39th spot, 40th position, the 27 of Cody Bias.
And completing your field, it's Derek Crone in the 07, Lee Heron in the 44, and Brandon Atkinson in the 15. It's 43 cars getting ready to go green flag racing. Glad you could be with us on LSRTV. Coverage presented by Double Clutch. You can check them out at winonmonday.com, and somebody's about to win on Tuesday. Green flag flies. We are underway for round number 5 of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series from the Pocono Raceway, and Chad Lawton quickly out to the early advantage. You see him on the inside, Patrick Baldwin on the outside, going to have company. Here comes the 87 of Trey Edson to the inside, looking for something to happen. Robert Hall in the 30, close call there on the outside. He's got the 23 to the inside, and keep in mind, if you're a fan of the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship, the 30 car Robert Hall darn near won this race last season if it wasn't for turn 1 in the last lap.
He had a big wiggle there, and he held up a little bit of a run to the 19 of Mitchell Hunt. Had Hunt going to clear the 23 of Brandon Hoff. Hoff is sideways through that tunnel turn. They're looking to go 3 wide. Dylan Duvall's going to back out of that. That's going to cause a checkup. The 47 of Overland's got to get on the brakes, and they're going to go side by side in turn 3. The 58 of Kenny Humpy on the outside lane. Duval working that inside, trying to find a way around the 23, looking to do it off 3 down this big wide front straightaway. Not going to do it quite yet. He's taking a look to the inside, so Duval possibly going to challenge here for 7th going into 1.
Dylan Duval had the vacation last week after being suspended from the series. He looks underneath that number 23 car of Brandon Hoff. The 58 of Kenny Humpy as well, going to try to follow him through. And when you look at the 2 drivers that are running on the inside line, 2 drivers that really want to have a season to forget at this point, and I said 42 and 58, now the 47 occupies that inside line as Chris Overland tries to advance his top 10 spot. But Humpy has been involved in a couple of lap 1 wrecks. Very quick car, 7. He's known as one of those qualifiers, former Landon Castle qualifying challenge champion. Just can't seem to put the racecraft together, but he's made it farther than he has the previous 2 starts. He's made it to lap 2.
And definitely put a nice crossover on the 47. Now he's going to look to the outside of the 23 machine of Brandon Hoff. So Kenny Humpy challenging for position number 8 here down the front stretch. Going to go into turn number 1. Trying to make that outside lane work. He's going to do so and easily get around and clear that 23 of Hoff on the inside lane, as now Hoff has company with Chris Overland on the top lane. The inside just can't stick with that high side through the corners. Overland going to clear him, and now 57 of PJ Sturgis is going to come in tow with some help from the 17 of Justin Trombley. They're going to try to take the advantage on this number 23 machine as Hoff continues to try to battle hard on the inside lane.
Inside line, the place to be right now after 3 laps of this event. We are working 80 laps this evening. See the 89 back there in this little scrum. Landon Harrison, the Sonic Chevrolet SS on the outside line of Brad Mahar in the 00. We got Justin Bolton back there, winner earlier this season at Phoenix. These guys battling for around just outside the top 10 or so as they go at it for those spots. 0036 maybe making it 3 wide down into corner number 1. The straightaway is wide enough. Corner's going to funnel out a little bit here as they get side by side down into the corner. The 82 of Alex Warren way up the racetrack as well. Warren, a former Pro Series champion, has looked good these first couple of races. Wants to get a little bit better though, Evan, as he tries to move up through the ranks.
Somebody that's dropping back since we dropped the green flag, that is the 23 of Brandon Hoff right now. He has company with the 53 of Brandon Hawk behind him. So Brandon Hoff in the number 23 machine, currently sitting in the 11th spot, took to the grid position number 5. So he's looking to find a rhythm in that machine as well, and hopefully start to move back up towards the front of the field, as he has about lost a car length or a position on the racetrack about every lap so far in this race. And now the 53 of Brandon Hawk's going to get up to his back bumper. and throw it to that inside here down the front straightaway. We're going to see how this works going into turn number 153. Going to really throw it in there. And there you go, Brandon Hawk going to lose one more position. Maybe try to move across over here on the 53, but can't do it. So Brandon Hawk around Hoff, and things get real tight behind him as the 17 of Trombley going to try to split the gap, go to the inside. He's going to pull back up, and now we see the 00 of Brad Mahar going to the inside of Landon Harrison.
Going to the inside, he'll pick up a spot on the point leader. The 89 of Landon Harrison will fall back one and possibly one more as we fan out. This might be our first caution flag of the evening as everybody slows down, and we'll see what brought the caution out. A lot of guys slow at the back, but what are you seeing here? The 84 of Adams looks possibly like a crinkled fender on that one. Not sure what brought that out. Evan, did you see it?
Looks like something went down there on the back straightaway. Everybody was involved in it. I know that the 84 Adams did go around, and he is going to be the cause of the incident. Looks like he just got loose. Coming up off the corner, he had some company. The 04 of Lukaska's on his back bumper, and the thing just kind of wobbled. He put it into the outside wall, came down, got into the right side, spun that thing around, and the 84 spun around up down that back straightaway, and no further incident with any other cars. And also the 04 of Lukaska went for a sideways ticket through that grass. He managed to keep it off the walls, and all other race cars as well. So a fairly minor incident, but that is going to put us under our first caution flag of the night here at the Pocono Raceway.
So the double clutch number 26 leads our field, and I was about to say before we went to that caution, the top 10 or so really stretched each other out. There really wasn't a whole lot of battling going on there. Everybody finding a place to race in the top 10. Then that battle we were covering around there, Brandon Hawk, Trombley, Harrison, and on back, that was really the hornet's nest per se, just outside the top 10. But it is Chad Lawton, Patrick Baldwin, Mitchell Hunt, Trey Edson, and Robert Hall, your top 5, with Josh Berry, Kenny Humpy, Dylan Duvall, Chris Overland, and PJ Sturgis, your top 10, as we completed lap number 5 of 80 to work this evening. And this is one of those racetracks, Evan, that it's a exciting racetrack, lots of great racing, but when the cautions come out, they can be a little bit long and really interrupt that rhythm. So we'll see. The key thing here, we've seen some races at the start of this season for this Pro Series that have been subpar. Let's call a spade here. We've seen some races that have been less than stellar, as a couple of guys throwing fakes down on the pit road. Top 5 or so going to stay out. Josh Berry and Mitchell Hunt going to be the first 2 to come down. Mitchell Hunt will pit from position number 3. But we'll see if these guys can, after this caution, maybe get into a rhythm and we can see some green flag racing, because this Pocono Raceway tends to bring us some green flag racing once that rhythm is reached, and we can see some stellar racing here.
And definitely taking a look at the drivers that are going to come down the pit lane here, looking probably for 4 tires here. They're going to go to the back of the this lead lap here. I know that the 28 of Warren's going to stay for 4. Some other guy's going to take 2 here. So a little bit of mixed strategy, but the majority of the field is going to stay out on the pit lane. The back half of the field joined some of those front runners that came down. We saw some of them faking out there up at the front of the pack. Chad Lawton in the 26 leading the race. Really made no intentions to even go close to the pit lane. Patrick Baldwin kind of threw a little bit of a fake in there. But you mentioned Josh Berry, points leader, or not points leader rather, but a guy that has ran up front so far in this series, running fairly well in the championship standings. 3rd, that is. He came down. He was the 2nd car down the pit lane there.
Well, you say point leader. When you look at the standings with the 1 drop factored in, Josh Berry is actually your point leader by 5 points over Robert Hall. Then you have Rich Doucette, Mitchell Hunt, and Brandon Chaburko, your top 5. And when you factor in the drop, Landon Harrison has a 22-point drop, and that puts him back in 7th place when it comes to, or just check that, 6th place when it comes to the drop when you factor in the best 4 races as opposed to all 5 races that we are, I guess, best 3 races compared to the 4 races we have run so far, with this being race number 5. So there's something to watch there as well, but obviously that's going to decide your point champion, decide your top 20. If you're new to this NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series, we remind you once again that these drivers are racing for the top 20 in the series to put themselves into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship, which pays $10,000 to the champion. Trip to Homestead Miami Speedway. Tyler Hudson's going to be honored next weekend with his championship at Charlotte at Champions Week for the Touring Series and the NASCAR Wheelin' All-American Series, so on and so forth. But you're really aiming for the top 20. Yes, the champion does get a nice trophy and $300, but you really want to get yourself into that top 20 because you want to vie for that $10,000 coming up. Series usually starts late February, early March, depending on when everything gets put together. But nevertheless, Chad Lawton's been in that situation before. Patrick Baldwin's been there before. Robert Hall, looking down the list, you got guys that have been in that series before. Then you take a guy like Trey Edson, former Online 500 champion, hasn't been to the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship, but would make a pretty good fit. The key is, though, he's got to put together 10 races to put himself, or at least 9 races to put himself in a position to try to vie for that series championship and go after a Tyler Hudson or a Ray Alfala or a Brian Schoenberg for that title.
You talk about Chad Lawton. Keep in mind, he's not in those top 20 in points at this moment. He's 29th. He's a guy right now to this point in the season, after the first 4 races, he has led 144 laps. So he has that 26 car dialed in, but it seems like the last 2 weeks and then pretty much the entire series so far is just he can't put a whole race together, as in those final 10, maybe 5 laps, just gets caught up in something not of his own doing. And I mean, he's got to love leading these laps right now, but he has to be thinking in the back of his mind, how is he going to stay out of trouble late in the going if, you know, history repeats itself and we see a bunch of yellow flags here when it comes down to it, because I'm sure that 26 machine is itching to get the victory lane.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers here, especially at this point in the season. This is race number 5. We're already over a third through the season. We're going to cross the halfway point this evening. These guys really have to turn it around and get themselves in the fray for the championship hunt. I know we got a couple of different drivers running some special paint schemes this evening. I wonder if Laura can't get a shot of the 33 of Ryan Blackford, because he's had a pretty stellar season so far this season. It is Giving Tuesday. If you're on social media, I'm sure you saw the hashtag Giving Tuesday. The Edible Peach Patch Project. Say that 5 times fast. On the hood, on the side of the Snow Cone Productions number 33 of Ryan Blackford this week. So if you're looking to give towards a cause, it's peachpatch.org on the side of the number 33 of Ryan Blackford. And you know, he started the season last year by running a different colored car. Brian Blackford's been superstitious, running a green, usually a green and black or green and white car. He's been running the Snow Cone Productions purple this season, and actually he hasn't fared too badly in the first 3 races of the season, or first 4 races, I should say, of the season. Now he's back for a special paint scheme this week, running the green and the white. Painted the car himself, he told me a little bit earlier today, but he's going to start 27th on this race. I'm sure Laura can get a shot of the 33 and all that traffic in front of him. At this racetrack, just like a Michigan, these guys can fan out 2 and 3 wide, Evan. It wouldn't surprise me if Brian Blackford gets to position 25 or 24 even before we get to corner number 1 here.
Yeah, he's sitting 27th right now. You mentioned that front straightaway is just so wide. These guys can really fan out. On the initial drop of the green flag, they pretty much kept it single file all the way through, showing some patience here early in the going, obviously with 80 laps of the track. That's 2.5 miles in length. You got a lot of racing to go, currently working lap 9 out of the caution flag, but I can guarantee you that if that happens later on in the race, that's not going to be the way it is. And for him being sitting back, and that's about the back of the mid-pack area, there's a lot of cars around him, so he's got to be checking his mirrors here. Good news is, though, we are doubled up. The lights are off with the Ford First Racing Mustang pace car, and we're looking to send them back to the green flag here with the 27 of Lawton leading us to do that coming off 3.
Couple different strategies here as we get ready to go green. Pace car is in. It's Chad Lawton leading the field, and he's gone. Green flag flies, and he leaves a whole lot of sim chassis behind him. Baldwin, Edson, and Hall going at it. They fan out 3 wide down the front straightaway, heading towards corner number 1. Kenny Humpy in the middle. Trey Edson on the inside. Robert Hall on the outside, and it's about to get tight as these guys get through corner number 1.
58 of Humpy kind of got off the gas a little bit to try to prevent that 3 wide, but now he's up on the back bumper of Robert Hall. He's looking to make it 3 wide now between turns 1 and 2. Going to stay back in line, so Kenny Humpy has the car. He just doesn't want to force that 3 wide quite yet. I saw more 3 wide now back in the pack. The 53 machine up the hill in the tunnel turn. That's Brandon Hogg. He's going to lose a handful of spots, but he keeps it out of the fence. They're still 2 wide throughout the field.
Sturgis, 57, looking to the inside of 87, Trey Edson, as they go through the final corner, corner number 3. This is just outside the top 5, as Edson did not get that start to get going, and now Sturgis looking over him in the 57, just behind them. They get a little bit racy as well. They fan out 2 and 3 wide. Josh Berry is in the middle of this as they go into corner number 1, the Speedco 91. Got a couple of fast cars ahead of him, but he's got to look back. He sees the 53, the 10, and you got Hoff, Moustakas, you got 89, Landon Harrison. These guys are all in a gaggle as they go down the straightaway into corner number 2, and this is just outside the top 10, and these guys are not wasting any time getting racy.
They've been going at it since we went back to the green flag racing. 2-3 wide back here. The 47 of Overland still finds himself on the outside of the 10 of Ton Moustakas. That's the battle for 13th place. The 89 of Landon Harrison trying to get himself inside of that left rear. The 47 of Overland to try to battle for that spot as well. They're side by side, back up in front of them. The 9 of Nicholas Morse on the outside lane has company with the 51 of Tyler Lawton on the inside lane. And then the 53 machine, also Brandon Hawk, looking to see who he wants to go with here down the front stretch into 1.
And you look at that 9 car, Nicholas Morris, it's been a tough season for him as well. Compared to where he wanted to start the season, Evan, he's been struggling to get up into that top 20 and struggling just to keep himself afloat in this series. Now he's got the 53 of Brandon Hawk ahead of him, looking down low on the 53 for the position. It gets tight going down into corner number 2 as the 9 has to let off the throttle a little bit to not get in to the 53 in front of him. Meanwhile, up in front, it continues to be Chad Lawton, Pat Baldwin, and Robert Hall, your top 3.
Top 3, no real changes yet. Side by side fanning out now as Chris Overland is passed by the 89 of Landon Harrison through that turn number 3 there. Still side by side behind them, the 82 of Alex Warren sitting P20 right now, trying to finish off the 36 machine of Justin Bolton. Alex Warren having the advantage that time by the stripe. Going into 1 though on the inside lane, we're going to see can the 36 of Bolton try to battle back on the top, just cannot get it done. And now we see the number 33 machine that we just talked about under the caution flag of Brian Blackford going to get around the 36 of Bolton also.
Brandon Hawk in the grass. What a save for the Racer Boost 53. He brings it back up on the racetrack. He was running 11th, but he's going to be outside the top 30 when we come by this time, and he's still trying to get that thing under power. Hoff going to fall to the rear of the field, or Hawk, check that, in the 53 going to fall to the rear of the field, and I'm not sure what sent him through the grass, Evan, but it's going to be a costly slide. It could have been worse, though. He could have been in the fence.
It was the same sort of scenario that we saw that caused our first incident. However, fortunately enough for him, there was nobody on his inside lane to get into and spin him all the way around. Just got loose off the turn, overcorrected it, smacked that outside wall, and went down to the grass. Managed to keep it pointed forward. So he kept it out of the inside wall, but you mentioned it to go all the way to the back of the lead lap. Side by side inside the top 10, the 3 of Brandon Schmidt has company as the 91 of Josh Berry going to pick up that spot, as well as Dylan Duvall going to get around him. So Schmidt going to drop from P8 to 10th place after going through turn number 1 as they now work through that tunnel turn. Turn number 2 there, the 3 looking to battle back as Brandon Schmidt trying to get on the back bumper of Josh Berry. Duvall with the wiggle, so now the 91-42 going to go side by side into 3.
Berry has had a stellar run so far early in this race. He'll complete lap number 14 this time by, and Berry will likely be scored in position number 8 as he tries to clear Dylan Duvall for the spot. He will do so, and Brandon Schmidt will now look at the 42 for the position at number 9. So Josh Berry up to 8th as he continues to march forward towards the front of the field. Just behind them, Nicholas Morrison, the 9, the 10 of Tom Moustakas, 21 John Gorlinski, last week's winner, the 47 of Chris Overland. They're all going at it in a little bit of a hornet's nest outside the top dozen or so as Landon Harrison, your point leader, has got away from this mess back here between the 9, 10, 21 and the rest of the field.
9 of Nicholas Morse going to come down in front of Moustakas. They're going to go 3 wide behind them. 21 Gorlinski on the inside. The 47 of Overland up top. Now here come the 23, the 33 of Hoff and Blackford through, and the number 10 of Tom Moustakas going to lose a handful of spots there. Also is now the 36 of Justin Bolton. Tries to work his way to his inside. That was a battle brewing there for about a lap. The side-by-side continues between the 21 of Gorlinski and the 47 of Overland. That battle going on for the 14th place over the 23 of Brandon Hoff. Wants to get into this mix going into 1.
Brandon Hoff looking to pick up 2 more spots. He's underneath the Menards double clutch 47 of Overland, and looking up at the 21 of John Gorlinski. Gorlinski won last week, but still looking to put a couple of races together to put himself into the top 20. In the point standings, 47 of Overland to the inside of John Gorlinski as they go side by side, and Gorlinski is going to lose at least 1 position. He's probably going to lose 1 more here to Brandon Hoff in the 23, and side by side behind them with Blackford, the 36 of Bolton, and the 82 of Alex Warren looking on as well.
Yeah, Alex Warren right now sitting in the 20th spot right now on the racetrack. That's exactly where he took to the grid, so he's looking to try to make his way forward. But he's got those guys side by side in front of him right now. The 30 machine going to come down the pit lane. That is Robert Hall. He's going to come down here a little bit early as these guys continue to go side by side. Again, that is the 36 of Justin Bolton on the inside, looking like the 33 of Blackford has a little bit of an advantage in the corner and threw off. The 36 is still there, barely trying to hang on. The 33 just about has him cleared, and Warren with an aggressive move to the inside.
Warren to the inside in the 82, trying to take away the spot, and behind the 00 of Brad Mayher also trying to get through here as well. And I kind of question the move on the 30 as the 4 car nearly has a little bit of a moment with the 00 back here. Brian Day nearly sent the 00 on a ride, but I was about to say I kind of question the move, and I guess and nobody else is questioning it because Kenny Humpy's coming down as well in the 58, and there's 1 more behind him. That may be Nick Morse in the 9, but there's a couple of guys coming down here, short pitting, maybe trying to run this race backwards, maybe trying a different pit strategy.
You never know, making what would appear an unprecedented pit stop. You never know. We saw some guys come down the pit lane that first time by. Maybe they're trying to do a trick with the fuel. We'll have to see as this race progresses. The side-by-side battle just wrapping up as the Ford of Brian Day going to get passed by the 00 of Brad Mayhar. Mayhar going to move up now to the 18th spot. And an aggressive move in 2 in the 4 of Brian Day's right back there on the inside and back around that 00 off 2.
The 4, Brian Day, trying to move closer to the front of the field, and he's got a gaggle in front of him. Justin Bolton, Alex Warren among them, the 23 of Hoff. And these guys are getting at it. Contact behind them. 1 car spinning towards pit road, and he's got it righted again, and I'm trying to get a number on it. Paul Kashiba in the 32 was the car, and I don't think he hit the fence, because if not, I think he might have scared the fence, though, because I think the fence was trying to hold its breath.
Yeah, he is slow now going into 1, but he hung on to it. Just got loose there coming off the corner behind the 07 machine. A little bit of a wiggle, it stepped out, and he was very close to hit the entry of the pit lane, and that would have been bad for him and his race car. That thing would have left a good mark on that car. The 82 now, Alex Warren, P15, taking a look to the inside on the number 23 of Brandon Hoff. He's going to hold that off for now, but Warren going to try to make it work again now, going into 3, and at the back off, can't quite get it done, and that's going to open the door for the 36 of Justin Bolton. But he's going to close the door on him as well, so still very fluid here after we went back green flag racing. Nobody's really spread out. We have a couple of good battles on the racetrack, but the leaders still stay pretty much about 3 car lengths in front of each other as Chad Lawton holding that 1/10 of a second lead over the 52 of Patrick Baldwin. Those guys sitting 1-2, the same places that they took to the grid from.
Hoff, Warren, Bolton, 23, 82, 36 going at it for position number 14, just behind Brian Blackford and John Gorlinski, who are putting on a fair show for position number 12 as well. Brian Blackford was on the inside a couple laps ago with John Gorlinski, but it looked like he was skating around more than driving around this racetrack, especially here in corner number 3. The 33 of Brian Blackford will try to set up the 21 of John Gorlinski. He had the inside the last time through this corner, but just could not seem to hold it. Gorlinski going to open the door just a little bit for Brian Blackford, but he can't hold it down there as they'll come down the front straightaway this time by. Complete lap number 20. We are 1/4 distance through this event as we continue to work around round number 5 at the Pocono Raceway for the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series. Our coverage on LSRTV is presented by Double Clutch. WinOnMonday.com.
the 4 machine staying busy. That's Brian Day. He's looking to the inside of Alex Warren. And the 82 of Warren now sideways going into turn 3, trying to get a handle on the race car. The 4 is going to get up underneath him. Almost contact now, coming off a 3. Now Warren to the outside lane, and the 4 of Brian Day on the inside, side by side at the stripe. Advantage to Warren now going into turn 1. They're also side by side behind them, with Bias and Derek Crone going at it. This is all going around that 16th position. The 27 way up the hill as the 4 of Day gets around Alex Warren in turn number 1. And now the 27 machine of Bias has company as the 17 of Justin Trombley around him, and so does the 00 of Brad Mayhard. The 27 of Bias scraped that wall coming out of 1.
I talked to competition director for Cody Bias Racing a little bit earlier on, Adam Gilliland, as the 21 of John Gorlinski slaps the wall up here about 4 positions ahead of where I was watching. Gorlinski 21 going to fall like a stone. He's going to lose 1 more spot here to Brandon Hoff in the 23. But just to get back to my point for a second, I was talking to CBR competition director Adam Gilliland earlier on this evening, competition director for Cody Bias, Derek Crone, Alex Warren, and he said that they had winning race cars, but then again, he wasn't driving them. So a little bit of confidence coming from Adam Gilliland. But right now, Warren falling back a little bit to 17th, Derek Crone 18th, and Cody Bias in 21st. So they're going to work their way to the front of the field, and I'm sure they're going to have at least top 10 pieces. But right now, not the way it was playing out, as the 27 and the 00 nearly had a moment off corner number 2, as Brad Mayhar had a handful.
And definitely the 27 machine of Cody Bias behind them. Oh, cars in the wall in front of them. Alex Warren is in it. The caution flag gonna fly quickly here as heavy damage on the 4 of Brian Day after trouble in turn number 2. Gonna put both of those race cars into the outside wall, and the caution flag back out. Looks like the 82 of Warren tried to make something work going into the corner. Pushed up maybe, got on the brakes, did not want to commit to that, and just caught the left rear of that 4 machine of Brian Day. Day overcorrected it, and hard contact with the outside wall, up and over, barrel rolling, and a huge wreck. Only 2 cars involved in it, fortunately, as they managed to keep it up on the outside wall, but now under the second caution flag.
Yeah, that was a scary looking wreck for the 4 of Brian Day, the double clutch number 4, and he was one of those drivers cutting his way to the front of the field, but it's not going to play out for that driver. He'll have to come back next week and see what he can do. He's one of those drivers who's looking to get a couple of runs under his belt to get closer to a little bit of insurance in the top 20 in the point standings. We go to pit stops this time. We expect everybody on pit road. Chad Lawton, Patrick Baldwin, PJ Sturgis, Mitchell Hunt, Trey Edson, top 5. Barry, Laughlin, Duval, Schmidt, and Harrison, your top 10, your point leader. And he told us last week his car was driving like a sea turkey, and he said a sea turkey essentially just flaps its wings, and it's there. And the sea turkey apparently is handling very well this evening. He sits in position number 10 in the number 89 car, and he's battling Josh Berry for that point championship. Berry running in 6th, Landon Harrison in 10th. So it might be one of those battles that comes down to the wire all season long when we talk about this NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series championship spot, as everybody appears to come down pit road. I'm not sure if anybody that pitted under that green flag, they're all on the lead lap at this point, but I'm not sure if any of them stay out and try to get track position, or maybe some of them play a 2-tire gamble here, Evan, maybe fuel only. We'll have to see if anybody decides to play any sort of gamble here.
Yeah, we're taking a look as they all come down the pit lane. Chad Lawton leading every single lap to this point, leading the 52 of Baldwin down the pit lane. That's where those two started. Maybe trouble on the pit lane for the 52 of Baldwin. Overshot it, had to back up a little bit. That's going to hurt him when he tries to get off the pit lane. Taking a look for 2 or 4 tires. All these lead guys going to go for 4 tires, but the 26 is going to win it off pit road, I do believe. But how about the 19 of Mitchell Hunt is going to smoke Patrick Baldwin off the pit lane because of that issue that he had entering.
Let's see if we can't get a hold of Mitchell Hunt, driver of the number 19. Really quick pit stop at thereallucky.com. Number 19, Mitchell, you got us?
Yeah, I got you, bud.
How big is track position here, and how big was that pit stop?
Track position so far seems to be pretty big. I started 10th or 11th on that first caution there, and passing was pretty hard. Everyone's fallen off pretty close to times up there. and that pit stop there really definitely helped. I think it was probably the quickest pit stop I've had all season.
You come into this evening sitting 4th with the drop, and it's been a pretty solid season for this number 19. This is the halfway race after tonight. How big can it be here, knowing that you have insurance maybe on that top 20 and maybe focusing on that championship?
Yeah, definitely. We've been strong every week. I know this Daytona and Phoenix, we didn't get the finishes that we wanted to, but I think now we're kind of, there's only one more track, and that's Watkins Glen that I really got to watch out for, but hopefully every other track that we go to, I think I can run pretty good, and hoping for a good finish here to kind of get us closer up to the contend for the championship.
And just shy of that halfway point, what do you got to do to keep this thing up front over the second half of the race?
Definitely just keep the fenders on it. I think with these restarts, it definitely gets tight. There's a lot of cars kind of jumping around through 1 and 2 with the bumps. It definitely gets tight through the tunnel turn as well. Just trying to keep the fenders on it, keep it clean, and hopefully kind of pick off people where you can.
Now, I know this iRacing service, if you're new to the iRacing service watching this for the first time, you have spotters, you have crew chiefs in this iRacing platform. You have Chad Coleman on top of the box. He's been in this NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship before. How big is it to have Chad helping you out throughout these races?
Well, first off, it's Chad's birthday today, so hopefully I can come out here with a win and surprise him. Hopefully we can run good, and that's what I'm looking forward to. But he's definitely got a lot to bring, definitely with strategy and everything, what we can do with what everyone else is running. Definitely helps to kind of give you a hindsight of what's going on around you.
Now, I know we have Chad on the radio. Chad, happy birthday.
Thanks, Tim.
Now, what do you got to do to help Mitchell Hunt get to the front of the field? What kind of information can you feed him here?
Basically just try to keep him informed on what other people are doing, what lap times he's running, what other cars look like, you know, in this situation, who stayed out, who pitted, you know, what kind of tires they're on. And basically just try to give him information. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do here helping. There's not many changes you can make to these setups because you're pretty much stuck with air pressure. And, I mean, that's about it. So, I mean, really it's up to Mitchell and whatever they got when they unload. So, he does a good job. Just basically try to keep him calm down. No, we don't want no Mayday stuff.
Now, we saw a lot of them guys pit on that green flag run. Do we anticipate a green flag run? You've seen a lot of these Pocono races play out. Do you anticipate a green flag run here at the end of the race and possibly see these guys have to do a green flag stop?
Pocono's hard to tell. I mean, if you make it past the first 8 or 10 laps, the field's spread all over the place. So, I mean, it's usually hit and miss. But, I mean, you just never know. It's so hard to say what's going to happen at a Pocono. Such a big track, field gets spread out, restarts are the most dangerous part of the race. I'm just hoping Mitchell may be able to get real lucky right here, pulling a win.
And we're getting ready to go back to green flag racing. Chad mentioned a restart, and before we let you go, Chad, we were going to get Brian Schoenberg on here to sing you happy birthday, but he declined.
Oh man, I was looking forward to that.
I guess we're going to have to bring him on at some other point. Mitchell, before we let you go, sponsors on this race car, and I know you got one real important one here on the side of it.
Yeah, we got RealLucky.com. They're down in West Palm Beach, Florida. They run a inshore and offshore deep sea fishing expedition. If you're ever down there, definitely go check it out. It's a blast. Got JDR playing this game too. It's been slick sweet. So hopefully we can work something out. Maybe get something changed up here later in the year. See what happens. But it'll be good.
And that was Mitchell Hunt and his spotter, Chad Coleman. They will roll from position number 3 here. We had 2 drivers. Played a little bit of strategy here. Kenny Humpy and Nick Morris, 58 and 9. And those were 2 of the drivers that did pit under the green flag run that we had. So you have those 2 drivers. And you got Mitchell Hunt, Chad Lawton, Pat Baldwin, top 5. PJ Sturgis, Tyler Laughlin, Dylan Duvall, Brandon Schmidt, and Josh Berry, your top 10. Your point leader, Landon Harrison, will start back in position number 14. We'll see if Mitchell Hunt does anything here, or the 26 at Chad Lawton. Quick cars. They got 2 drivers ahead of them, albeit they are quick cars. They have been within the top 10, top 15 this evening. They haven't been up here with the leaders. We'll see how quickly the leaders try to get around them. I don't want to say dispose of them, but we'll see how quickly the leaders can get by this 58 and the 9 is the First Racing Ford Mustang pace car getting ready to head to the infield. Field in command of the NRT servers. Number 58 at Kenny Humpy, and Humpy is gone. Green flag flies. We are back underway. The 19 to Hunt quickly going to go to position number 2 as Nick Moore's caught sleeping on the outside. Did not get going. It's going to stack up the outside line as Humpy will lead him into 1.
26 of Laughlin looked to make it 3 wide. He's going to get to the inside. There goes the 42 machine Duval going to the middle. Caution flag going to fly. They're wrecking back. Going into 1 now. The caution's going to come back out, so putting us under our 3rd caution right now. After trouble on the restart, we just heard him mention that the most dangerous part of this race is the restarts, and we saw it right there with the restart incident going to put us under the yellow.
And it was about mid-pack, trying to get a number on this here, but they're all 2 and 3 wide here. 50 of Alex Scribner going to get tagged as he is going to go around. I believe that was the 54, Brandon Bowie, that may have got into him. 50 car going to go into the outside wall. The 48 of Chaburko may have a little bit of damage, but I believe the 50 is going to be the only one to get significant damage to his race car. That's the Gale Force Racing number 50, as he will have to come back down onto pit road and get some of that damage repaired, as the field does take the caution here to complete lap number 28 and begin lap number 29. And we mentioned Alex Scribner started off the season with high hopes, and he, looking down the list here, is 17th. Can't really afford, that's 17th with that 1 drop, can't really afford another bad race, because if he does have a bad race, then it's going to bring everybody else just that much closer to him.
And that incident there, you mentioned that happened mid-pack again. An incident that could have really spiraled into something big was relatively small. It simply looked like a case of the 50 of Scribner just getting a little bit loose in the corner. And when he tried to get the hang of it, kind of walked down the racetrack a little bit and just got tagged by the 54 machine right below him. That was Brandon Bowie. Bowie really had nowhere else to go. He couldn't even see the 50 car down there, or up there, coming down on him. And if he did, he had another machine to his inside, the 84 of John Adams. They were 3-2 wide back there, right in the middle of the pack, and it just sent the 50 into the outside wall and tore the back bumper off that thing. Maybe some minor damage for the 48 car. We'll be getting a little piece of that. That's Brandon Chaburko, currently sitting in the 27th spot.
So we'll see if the leaders do decide to come down into pit road, and we only had maybe a quarter of a lap of green, so I don't know if any of these drivers are going to come down into pit road, but nevertheless, we have Kenny Humpy leading, Mitchell Hunt, Pat Baldwin, Chad Lawton, Nick Morse, top 5. Dylan Duval, PJ Sturgis, Tyler Laughlin, Josh Berry, and Brandon Schmidt, your top 10. And none of these drivers are going to come down pit road. And we mentioned a little bit earlier about Tyler Laughlin, Alex Warren, and the Cody Bias Racing team. And the team told me this is something to think about as we go to break. Adam Gilliland says that he has an ingrown toenail on his thumb. Figure that one out. Race fans, don't go away. We'll be right back with the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series presented by Double Clutch.
It's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4 in the checkered flag. He wins his first NASCAR iRacing. Welcome back to Pocono and the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series presented by Double Clutch. You can check them out at winonmonday.com. This is round number 5 of 10 after we complete this event that we are halfway through this season, and we are 30 laps into this race. We got 50 laps left to go in this event. We are still under caution. We'll work this caution for probably 2 more laps. And we have, let's look down here, we have 38 cars in the lead lap, all the way back to Lee Herron. Lee Herron is 1 lap down, Ashley Miller 1 lap down, Alex Warren 2 back, and Brian Day and Stephen Gilbert 7 laps down, and Stephen Gilbert off the racetrack in the 37 cars. So it's a tough break for some of those drivers. But looking back here, I see Shane Miller on pit road in the 71, Kwame in the 43 also having a run that I'm sure they would like to have a little bit better because they have a new sponsor on their race car. Everything at NASCAR Reborn. You can check them out on Facebook. That's Everything NASCAR Reborn, joining the Wahoo Motorsports team, and really subpar effort for them in qualifying this evening. They qualified near the back of the field, and they are, I guess, biding their time right now, Evan. There's still half the race to go, but they're around the back of this field, and we'll see them try to push to the front. But there's a lot of competition here. We'll have to see how they do with their new sponsor, Everything NASCAR Reborn, on those race cars this week.
And definitely continuing under the yellow flag right now at the Pocono Raceway, Alex Warren going to go around the field for the Lucky Dog right now, sitting 41st, 2 laps down, so he's going to go around to get one of his laps back and stay down there at the back of the pack. Kenny Humpy is going to remain in the lead. Remember, he didn't come down to pit lane when we saw the rest of the field come down for those pit stops. Didn't get past because the caution flag was thrown pretty quickly once the middle of that pack got into turn number 1. He got a good jump on Mitchell Hunt. Remember, one thing to note about these restarts is on the iRacing service, the leader can normally dictate the start. He has about 5 seconds from when the pace car hits the pit lane to when the sim actually throws the green flag, and in that time, the car in the second position cannot be in front of him, so he can go whenever he wants. At this track, the green flag is thrown almost as that pace car is just starting to make that left-hand turn down to the pit lane, so he can really be up on the wheel. He needs to get on the gas, but that almost gives a little bit of more of an advantage to the outside lane than, say, at another racetrack, because he knows that as soon as that green flag goes, he's got to get going, and Kenny Humpy in the 58 really can't play any games as much as at another racetrack.
And the lights are off. We will go green next time by. And we mentioned Kenny Humpy. He's had some great race cars, joined up with the team with Rich Doucette and Chad Lawton. But Dylan Duval also a part of that team. But he hasn't had anything to show for it because he's been real aggressive on lap number 1. There's been 2 races. He hasn't made it past lap number 1. Right now, we sit on lap 32. So this is one of the longest runs that he has had so far this season. And he will start from the pole of this one with Mitchell Hunt to the outside. Pat Baldwin, Chad Lawton, and Nick Morse, your top 5. And we mentioned Nick Morse a little bit earlier, one of those drivers that really trying to turn around his season at this point. And having to look on the second page of the point standings for Nick Morse. And he's down there in those standings trying to get a little bit closer to the front of the running order when it comes to this NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. So a run here can really turn it around for the number 9 team. We'll see what he can do here on this restart, closing in on the halfway point of this event. We work lap number 32 of 80, so just 8 laps shy of the halfway point when we take the green flag here. We'll see if Kenny Humpy can maintain the lead position, or if Mitchell Hunt, maybe Chad Lawton as well. Lawton was quick in the opening run of this race. We'll see if we can't get some green flag racing in here as well, because Pocono Raceway tends to lead itself to at least 1 green flag run in these events. The first racing Ford Mustang pace car about to head off, and the 58 about to get going green again. Here he comes. Green flag flies. The 19 of Mitchell Hunt on the outside has some room to get to the inside. It's side by side between Pat Baldwin and Chad Lawton. Going down to the corner, and here comes the 9 of Nick Morse trying to make something happen on the inside line. 9 car trying to go to the inside and pick up a couple spots.
52 of Baldwin going to try to slide into the top lane and goes a little bit too high into turn 1, which is going to make it 3 wide here up at the front of the field. The 51 machine going to go to the middle. That's Tyler Lawton. You got the 57 machine on the inside of PJ Sturgis. The 3 machine now there, that's Brandon Schmidt in the 52, just trying to keep that car up against the wall and out of trouble. The 91 machine, you see that. Josh Berry's going to throw it in there to the inside. Still trying to get this thing sorted out. 3 wide, still behind them now as the 87 is going to make it 3 wide again. That's Trey Edson on the bottom.
Justin Bolton through the grass in the 36, and he is going to come back up into traffic, and this isn't going to end well. Caution. Flag will fly. The 30 of Robert Hall involved in this one, and we have no caution as of yet, but I would believe these guys, I don't know why there wouldn't be a caution there.
There is no caution flag thrown yet. 36 through the grass, came up, caught another car. That was the 30 machine. Some other cars getting some damage. They're going again, and the flag is still green, so no caution being thrown by the iRacing officials, and we're going to remain under the green flag, which is kind of strange considering what we do see the caution for sometimes, but nonetheless, the tougher break for Justin Bolton just got even worse, as now he does not get a caution flag to get down to the pit lane and stay with the pack, as he's going to lose a lot of time here all the way back to position number 37.
And a tough break for Robert Hall as well, coming so close to winning this race in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship last year. He is off the racetrack with that damage. Caution flag will now fly, and we'll look for possibly another incident on this racetrack. But tough break for some of those guys, and there is one car sideways. It's Brandon Chaburko, and he is pointed the wrong way in corner number 3.
And definitely the 48 machine right there of Chaburko not going forward in turn number 3, so a separate incident going to bring out the caution flag, and this happened way back in turn 2, and they slid all the way to turn 3. Chaburko getting sideways in turn 2 in his 48 machine. The 07 was on the inside lane. That was Derek Crone, and the 48 of Chaburko tried to correct it, came down, caught the 07. 07 machine went through the grass. Chaburko up into the outside wall and then came back down in front of traffic and caught about 1 or 2 more cars up in that. The 00 machine going to get some front end damage. Tough break for Brad Mahar. We've seen him up at the front of the field, and then Chaburko finally split it around going into 3 and came to a stop on the racing surface. So the caution flag does fly eventually after about 2 incidents there, which is going to help out Justin Bolton as he is slow on the racetrack right now. He's looking for the tow down to the pit lane. So tough break for the number 36 machine as well as the 48 of Chaburko. Both their nights not going the way they want at this point, as we are within 5 laps now of the halfway point.
And looking at the top 5 in this race right now, and I talked about looking for Nick Morse in the second page of the point standings. Nick Morse runs in 39th in the standings. Kenny Humpy is back there in 33rd in the standings. This is without the drop factored in. Dylan Duval, top 5, he's 28th in the standings, and just behind him, Chad Lawton is 29th in the standings. So you look at those 4 of the 5 drivers inside the top 5 in this race right now are well outside the top 20 in the standings when it comes to the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series. Mitchell Hunt, keep in mind, in the number 19 car is running a little bit closer. He's had some great runs this season, and Mitchell Hunt, with the drop, runs 4th. Without the drop, runs within the top 10 in position number 8. So Hunt has continued what he has started this season. When you look at your point leaders, Landon Harrison in the number 89 car. Landon has been running well here this evening, and he is running 13th at this point. Then you have Josh Berry. Berry in the number 91 car runs 9th. So those drivers running about mid-pack, and they were within that hornet's nest at the time of the caution flag, and it just seems like at this point, the top 8, top 10 or so seem to get strung out a little bit. They find a place to race, and there's not really a whole lot of action per se around those race cars after 2 or 3 laps. But it seems like the hornet's nest from 10th on back or so, they just don't want to quit. They want to go side by side. They want to put on a show, but usually it leads to contact, it leads to cautions, and we pace for about 5 minutes or so underneath the caution flag as these guys. It's not a quick caution lap around here. The last lap for Kenny Humpy, nearly 2 minutes in length behind the pace car.
Yeah, 2 minutes under the caution flag is almost brutally long for these drivers, especially if you say you get something like this happen late in the going, come back to a shootout. those guys up at the front, they're going to be sitting there and thinking for those 5 minutes, possibly under a yellow flag, what they want to do, and that might cause them to change their mind. And it can be agonizing as a race car driver to try to do that. You touched on the restarts here. That's something we mentioned at the top of the show, was that things can really fan out. That front straightaway is so long and just so wide. You can easily go 3 wide, but once you get to the corner, it thins out a lot. The only real controlled restart was the one when we took the green flag on lap 1. Everybody stayed 2 wide. Other than that, we've been 3 wide pretty much every single time. And you mentioned right there about after 10th place, maybe 15th, 16th place, around the 20th spot. In that area, we've seen a lot of 3 wide, and they've done a pretty good job of keeping those things pointed in the right direction. We've seen lots of shuffling, a little bit of beating and banging, some guys in the wall, some guys sideways off the corners. But I mean, that kind of racing is only going to pick up as the laps continue to wind down here now within about, I want to say, 43 laps to go.
Yeah, we'll cross halfway when we go green, or around the time when we go green, as we run on lap 37 of 80. Kenny Humpy, Mitchell Hunt, Chad Lawton, Dylan Duvall, and Nick Morris, your top 5. You look back through the field, we got some drivers that are still trying to make their way to the front. Got John Gorlinski, last week's winner, running in 12th in the 21 car. John Adams, former winner here at Pocono, runs 18th after being involved early in an incident. Looking back, you got Brian Blackford running strong earlier in the race. 33, runs 23rd right now. And then there's some other drivers. Brandon Hawk ran strong earlier, was through the grass at one point in this race. He runs in 29th position. And then you look on down the list, there's some drivers that are still looking to rebound. Alex Warren will get the free pass here. He should be back on the lead lap, so he should put us with 37 drivers on the lead lap of this race. Ashley Miller, Justin Bolton scored each as 1 lap down, and Bolton not currently on the racetrack at this point. Neither is Robert Hall. Hall is 3 laps down. Neither Lee Heron, Brian Day, or Stephen Gilbert completing your 43 car field. So we should have 37 back on the lead lap when we go green, with Kenny Humpy and Mitchell Hunt on the front row of this event.
And definitely Kenny Humpy in the 58 again. He's been able to hang on to that lead spot after the different pit strategy call again. We saw some of those guys come down under the green flag. Thought it was kind of a strange move, and that puts him up into the lead spot. Not like he had to take a big swing of things to get up into that area. He was running with the front guys, started the race in the 10th spot, but has been able to hang on to the number 1 position now. To be fair to the other guys, we really haven't had a long green flag run, or even a green flag run of any sort, since he got to that spot. But you have to think the 19 of Mitchell Hunt might have a small advantage over him. The 26, Chad Lawton, again, still having a solid night. 42, Dylan Duvall back in this week's race. He's sitting 4th, and then you got Nicholas Morris in the number 9 machine rounding out the top 5. Lots of fast guys up there as the lights now do come off on that Ford First Racing Mustang pace car. So after 2 more minutes of pacing, we're going to look for the green flag when we come to take lap number 39, which will be 42 laps to go in this thing. Again, intensity and anticipation only going to pick up once we're on the downhill side of things after we pass the halfway point in this race. We had a full field of 43 cars come to take the initial green flag. Right now, 37 of them remain on the lead lap. Last car on the lead lap is the 07 of Derek Crone. That car pretty beat up after getting caught up in a couple incidents, none of his own doing, but that car definitely banged up for sure right now, sitting at the tail end of the lead lap.
And you look at this field, we still have 38 of our starters, and considering we've had some wrecks and they've happened mid-pack, the attrition rate not as high as one would possibly expect at this point, but we'll see some drivers, I'm sure, if we do see some more cautions, I'm sure we'll see the attrition rate and the drivers in the garage area begin to climb a little bit more. And from what we've seen, I don't think we've seen our last caution flag of the race. I don't think we've seen our last 2, 3, 4, 5 caution flags of the race. By the way this pace is going, these drivers have it in them to put some green flag laps on the board, and I'm hoping to see them here this time, as Humpy and Hunt will bring the field back to the green flag as they work through corner number 3. They'll see the green flag this time by on the front straightaway. See if Chad Lawton or Dylan Duvall, the teammates, can't do anything. They've got one teammate on the front row. Mitchell Hunt is going to try to get past that other teammate, Kenny Humpy, in the 58. Pace car is going to peel off somewhere in the vicinity of right here. And here comes Kenny Humpy. Green flag flies. We're back underway. The 19 gets a great start on the outside line of Mitchell Hunt, but the 26 is on it. Chad Lawton essentially pushing his teammate down the front straightaway and into corner number 1. Hunt going to have to find a place in line. Nick Morris is going to try to escape here with 4th, but Duval is there as well. Look at the run Mitchell Hunt gets on the outside line. 19 car going to go to the lead.
You saw Kenny Humpy, he was trying to get to the lead because he knows that the outside has a little bit of an advantage, and now Mitchell Hunt is going to clear him for the number 1 spot. So move Mitchell Hunt now back into the number 1 spot. Chad Lawton sitting in 3rd as Kenny Humpy drops back to 2nd. Going to challenge here coming off 2, almost gets her up to the back bumper and into the left rear of Mitchell Hunt. Kenny Humpy now finds himself on the inside lane going into 3. Not going to be able to hang on as the 19 pushes up the hill a little bit, opening the door for Humpy in the 58 machine. Getting a good run off corner exit and side by side down the front straightaway. Mitchell Hunt will have the advantage with the 26 of Chad Lawton in tow.
So Mitchell Hunt will lead, but it's the 58 of Kenny Humpy on the inside line. The 26 of Chad Lawton following, and these 3 cars are beginning to break away from the rest of the field. 19 going to lead into corner number 1 and down the straightaway looking towards corner number 2. Side by side for 4th, as I believe we're stacking them up about mid-pack. Couple of drivers look towards the infield. 31 of Sasha Wessler and the 53 of Brandon Hawk, the 33 of Brian Blackford, and we're going to slow them down for 10 more minutes.
And the caution flag back out as they pile in down that back straightaway. All happened around the number 31 machine of Sasha Wessler. Taking a look at the replay, looking like the 31 machine got loose coming off the corner, and the 33 so did also. Brian Blackford just kind of went straight up the racetrack after trying to get a handle on that machine, or expecting the 31 to be up against the outside wall. Nonetheless, they both got turned sideways in front of the field. The 53 machine got caught up in that, getting some damage also in contact with the inside wall, and limited it to about 3 cars as he went back up on the racetrack, and some more guys had to get around it. So 3 cars going to pile in on this one down the back straightaway, and you mentioned about 10 more minutes under the yellow flag here as we do pass the halfway point in this race. So now on a downhill slope of things, but under our 5th, I do believe, caution of the evening.
So 3 more drivers involved in that one at least. So we'll see how many of those guys do have damage. They'll come down. Pearson race cars, Sasha Wessler, Billy Price. 2 of those drivers on pit road, and Wessler pointed the wrong direction in that 31 car. So there's going to be extensive work on that 31. Going to be a long stay on pit road for that Chevrolet SS. And some of the drivers swapping some positions on this restart. We talked about our point leaders. Josh Berry fell to 10th. Landon Harrison fell to 15th. So those 2 drivers fall a few positions, and it looks like Landon Harrison has 1 more position between himself now and the 91. And John Adams has moved his way up through the field. He is in 13th right now in the 84 car. He's gained some positions because I believe he was outside the top 15 in that little run there. So in a lap and a half or so, he's going to gain a few spots and move up into the top 15, into 13th place. I wouldn't count out the Mud Jug Portable Spittoons 84 as Adams, former winner here at Pocono, and he knows how to get around this joint. One of his favorite racetracks, calls this his Wheel Factory, and he is up there near the front. And do we have some pit stops happening here? The 9, and Nick Morris comes down into pit road, and a couple of drivers following him down, and a couple of other drivers staying out in the racetrack. Sturgis among them coming down. And I believe that may be 40s. No, check that. That's the 3 of Brandon Schmidt also coming on to pit road.
And definitely some guys going to come down the pit lane to do their pit stops. Now we see everybody at the back half of the field, as well as some drivers laps down, going to come down, similar to what we saw the first time. But Nicholas Morse, the guy closest up to the front in the number 9 machine, going to come down the pit lane for a 4-tire stop and fuel. Remember, that's the same way that the guy is sitting right now up at the front in 2nd place. Kenny Humpy got up there, and now that we're at the halfway point in this race, when does everybody else have to pit? If they pit, come down for tires and whatnot, how everything cycles through a long racetrack. So we heard when we talked to Mitchell Hunt over the radio that track position really is key, and that's how maybe what we're seeing right here could end up to shake things out here when it's all said and done and a checkered flag flies. So just something to keep note of who come down the pit lane under these caution flags.
Yeah, a couple of drivers trying to play some strategy here, and that's the big question mark. We've seen in this series before, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, there's been some races that have been caution-filled, and these drivers can't find a rhythm. and we get a race where we have our longest green flag run being about 10 laps or so. And then we've seen some races that have gone green, and then we've seen some races where there's a little bit of a mix of both. We get a caution-filled first half or a caution-filled second half, and somewhere in the middle and somewhere around that point, we get a long green flag run. We had a little bit of a run to kick off this race. We have 38 laps to go when we come across the stripe this time by, so there's still an opportunity to have a 15-20 lap green flag run in this event. Well, there's still an opportunity to have a 35 lap green flag run in this event when you look at the grand scheme of things. But if we get a 10-15 lap run, it's going to throw that little bit of a curveball into some of these guys' plans. If you have a long run car, it's the opportunity to get some track position on a 10-15 lap run. But if you have a short run car, that's what we've been playing out here these last few runs. It's been short runs, 1, 2 laps, and then a caution. And we'll go back to green with about 35 laps to run in this race. And if we do go green, some of these guys that just came down pit road, they may be the beneficiary of a long green flag run. So we'll see if it does play out. Mitchell Hunt, Kenny Humpy, Chad Lawton, Dylan Duval, and Tyler Laughlin in your top 5 as we will get ready to go green probably in about a lap and a half or so.
You mentioned about what kind of setup you're going to come into this race looking forward to. You talk about the Pocono Raceway. You're going to anticipate some green flag runs, but then again, you got to remember, these are 43 cars here. Some of them are going to be a little bit more aggressive than others, going 3 wide, as we've seen on these restarts. And the way these last few races have gone, you're going to have to expect that it's going to come down to a short run, a shootout there when it's all said and done, coming to the checkered flag, what happens there. But these races, again, also have had that green flag run, so you really can't swing your car in any direction to any sort of one of them. Again, normally we see the caution at the beginning. We got that. Then you have a long green flag run, and then it's just yellow after yellow after yellow in those closing 20 laps. Tonight, we've seen a fair share of green flag laps, but no real extensive one like we've seen in the past. And now that the laps start to wind off, the chances of that occurring really start to go down. So if you're those guys you mentioned that pitted at the back there, if we see a green flag on, they could be the beneficiary of that. I just don't see this race going green at this point on for an extended period of time, because the way they've been racing in the opening laps, it's only going to pick up here as the laps continue to wind down. You mentioned 35 to go, possibly when we come around to the green flag, something in that range. I just don't see a long green flag run in the future for this race, and that's why you want to stay up front in track position like Mitchell Hunt said.
And if you're looking for some great racing entertainment, LSRTV is really the place to be. Of course, every Tuesday night we do have the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series presented by Double Clutch. WinOnMonday.com is the place to find more information on the Double Clutch Engage program. If you're into short track racing and some looking to further your racing career, WinOnMonday.com is the place to look at for that. But coming up on Wednesday nights here on LSRTV, at least for the next 2 weeks until they close their season, the Maritime iRacing League will be on here. Tomorrow night it's the Patterson Sales and Service 250 from Oxford, and you might think Oxford late models, 23 cars, you're not going to see a whole lot of green flag racing there. You'd be impressed. At least I'm going to put my word out on that one. Come back tomorrow to LSRTV for the Maritime iRacing League Patterson Sales and Service 250, and then I believe RSR also here on Monday and Thursday nights as well. Another great sim racing league, realsimracing.com, and a lot of those drivers are cream of the crop, and you could very well see them in this series. A lot of great talent in the Real Sim Racing series on Monday and Wednesday. They're in their off season right now, but they do have those off racing series that do moonlight here on LSR TV. So some great racing entertainment throughout the week. Be sure to check out LSR TV. If you're here, bookmark the page. Come back tomorrow night. Come back Thursday night and see some great racing. We're getting ready to go back to green. Mitchell Hunt and Kenny Humpy on the front row. Chad Lawton, Dylan Duval, and Tyler Laughlin. You got Chris Overland, Josh Berry, Trey Edson, John Adams, Brandon Hoff, your top 10, with some of those drivers coming down into pit road. It's going to change up the lineup a little bit. We mentioned Josh Berry moving up to 7th. Landon Harrison was one of those drivers that came down into pit road. Landon Harrison will start in 22nd place. It could be very hairy for your point leader, as these nerves, you're going to have to kind of tiptoe through the field and hope that next wreck, that next caution, if it does come out, is not you involved in that, and that point lead could very well crumble very quickly. The first racing Ford Mustang pace car getting ready to head to the infield right here, and here comes Mitchell Hunt. Green eyes, we're back underway. 44 laps completed, 36 laps to go. Watch that 26 of Chad Lawton. Lawton looking to the inside as we fan out down the front straightaway. It'll be Hunt getting to turn one first.
26 of Lawton on the inside, just not going to be able to hang on to the 58. The 58 is going to have to get checked up, though, by the 19 of Mitchell Hunt. And now the 26 of Lawton going to have an advantage on the inside. Can't get it done, and now the crossover up front. Kenny Humpy, he wants to lead back from Mitchell Hunt. We're going to go side by side, going into the tunnel turn there, turn number 2. 19 is going to have the advantage on the top lane. The 58 battling strong, not with a lot of room, and great corner exit. Now they're going to be door-to-door going into 3, and the 26 of Lawton is on the back bumper of both of them.
Side by side for the lead, Kenny Humpy and the Energy Servers, number 58 on the inside of the RealLucky.com, number 19 of Mitchell Hunt, as they work through corner number 3 and down the front straightaway. Hunt got a little bit loose at a corner number 3 that time by. Going to give the momentum to Kenny Humpy on the inside, and here comes the 26. The double clutch, number 26 of Chad Lawton, looking for position number 2 as Mitchell Hunt tries to fight back on the outside. That 19's been strong on the outside line. It's just a matter of if he can hold it up there and try to take away the lead. Once again, Duval and now Josh Berry complete your top 5. What a run by the speed code number 91. Josh Berry now working up into the top 5. Top 5 going for the lead down into corner number 2.
The 58 of Humpy has done an excellent job to this point on the inside line now, as he is going to clear Mitchell Hunt, and Mitchell Hunt going to lose about 2-3 more spots as the 26 is going to go around him, the 42 Duval around, and now the 91 of Josh Berry into the picture like he does every week, sticking his nose into the mix here late on in the going. So Mitchell Hunt, again, the top lane has pretty much been the dominant line throughout this race, so I thought he would be able to hang on to the 58 of Humpy, but Humpy was just so strong on the inside lane, and tough break for Hunt, going to go all the way from 2nd position back to 5th. So he's going to try to work his way back forward. Now the question is, how strong can 58 of Kenny Humpy be up front? Because he has a fast number 26 machine of Chad Lawton, just a couple car lengths off his back bumper, coming out of 1.
And as they go down the straightaway, your top 5, about top 10 or so, are actually single file at this point. Looking back to the Tom Moustakas, number 10, and the 22 of Rob Ackley. First time I called Rob Ackley's name all night long. He is up here in position number 11 or so as they continue to do battle, and he actually just gave that up to Rob Ackley. So there's a couple of drivers there that we haven't mentioned a whole lot this evening. Tom Moustakas has had some quick cars, but really hasn't had anything to really show for it except for Daytona last week, as Mitchell Hunt continues to fall back. 19 car on the outside line going to fall back and possibly outside the top 5 here, as Overland in the 47 is going to look at Mitchell Hunt to put him in position number 5.
They're going to go at it into the corner. Hunt tried to come down a little bit of a bobble, and he's going to lose the spot to the 47 of Overland, completing the pass on him. So Hunt now back to the 6th position. He's looking to battle back now, going down this stretch here. However, taking a look to the inside, trying to see if he has the run. Can't get it done, so going to pull back in line as the 47 nearly getting into the back of Duval in corner entry. 47's got to check up. Hunt to the inside. He won't be able to hang on, however, coming off a 3, so that position swap is going to stay for the time being. Chris Overland going into the 5th spot right now. Now going into turn number 3. The 51 of Tyler Lawton also right behind them, trying to look up into this mix as they continue to get sorted out up here up front. However, side by side back around the 10 car of Tom Moustakas. He's trying to hold off the 43 of Kwame J, and side by side behind them as well with Paul Kashiva and the number 17 of Justin Trombley now going into 1.
And just a couple of spots ahead, that's the 84 of John Adams and the 23 of Brandon Hoff going at it for positions 9 and 10. John Adams was involved, I believe, in our first or second caution flag of the evening, and the 84 is continuing to march his way back up to the front of the field, going to try to put himself in position number 9 as he sets it up for corner number 2 down to the inside of Hoff and the 23 as they go side by side for position number 9, and Adams trying to pull it off and get a great run here this evening under his belt. The 84 still trying to make that move on the 23. 23 not giving up easy on the outside line.
They both door slam down that straightaway, and when it's all said and done, John Adams going to get it as the 23 of Hoff drops back now and finds himself side by side with the 22 Rob Ackley. He's looking to get around him, and now the 10 machine of Ton Moustak is going to get to the inside as well, possibly looking at a 3 wide. He's going to stay, however, in the inside lane behind the double 2 machine of Rob Ackley. Going into one, a little bit of a checkup. The 23 of Hoff going to try to battle back on the outside lane as they get real close behind them. The 32 almost into the back bumper, the 43, but 22, 23 still side by side out of the corner, and a great run by Hoff trying to clear Ackley. Going into 2, he's going to do it. Will he cut down on him and block the inside lane? He's going to shut the door there and hang on to the spot. So a good defensive move by Brandon Hoff to get that 10th spot back.
Yeah, you have to stop the bleeding at some point, and it looked like Brandon Hoff really wanted to put the stop to it there. Rob Ackley in the number 22, going to be back in position number 11, but Ton Moustak is right behind him, trying to pick up a position for 11th and 12th. Check that as they come down the front straightaway scoring wheel loop. We have 30 laps to go in this event at Pocono. Kenny Humpy, Chad Lawton, and Josh Berry continue to be your top 3 up in front, and they've pulled away a little bit over Dylan Duval and Chris Overland, completing your top 5. Mitchell Hunt and Laughlin. We have Trey Edson in 8th, John Adams in 9th, and then Brandon Hoff back there in 10th. And it looks like at this point, for the most part, everybody finding a place to race right now. Single file throughout about your top 20 or so. The first side-by-side battle I see back here is 0-4, 9, and 1-5-7 as Andrew Fayash III stuck on the outside of the number 9 of Nick Morris as they work through the tunnel going down towards corner number 3.
Yeah, Fayash was on the outside of Lukaska coming out of 1, and he did not have a lot of room on the top lane and wiggled, but was able to keep it pointed forward and allowing Jeremy Lukaska to get the spot. Now you see the 9 machine trying to work his way around him. That's Nicholas Morris. Again, these guys back around the 23rd, 22nd spot. And now you see the 54 to Brandon Bowie going to the inside. So Andrew Fayash III trying to get something going in his number 157 machine. Remember, he was caught up in that incident at Daytona last week that ended up ending it all. So he's going to try to go side by side, looking to improve 33rd position right now on the racetrack, or 24th position rather. Not what he's looking for, but he has made up spots from 33rd, which is where he qualified. But he is trying to hold off an aggressive 54 of Brandon Bowie. Bowie is on the inside, still trying to go at it side by side going into the tunnel turn.
54 looking to pick up that spot on Fayash, and just behind them you got Brandon Chaburko involved in an incident a little bit earlier, the 00, also moving back up through the field, as is Derek Crone in the 07. But Fayash on the outside line, giving that 54 a lot of room down there to make that pass or make that move, as it looks like he will do so coming up at a corner number 3. Little bobble though for the 54 of Brandon Bowie. It'll give the run to the 157 on the outside line, almost dead even at the line. Give it to the 157 of Andrew Fayash. No, give it to the 54 Brandon Bowie. Scoring dead even between those two drivers, and Bowie credited with position number 24 that last time by. But the 157 going to get the run through corner number 1, and he should have the spot off corner number 1 and down towards corner number 2.
He did a good job on the outside lane. Now look behind them, the 48, Brandon Chaburko, going to try to make something work. He's on the inside of the 54 of Bowie, going into the corner. Going to drop back to the left rear of that corner and can't make it stick on the inside. Coming off corner exit, has a run. 54 tries to protect the inside, can't do it. 48 is going to stay dedicated to it. Going into the corner, however, does not have the speed to maintain it there. I'm going to drop back now and lose that spot. Now the 7 machine also a little bit slower up on the top, allowing these guys to go by. The 07 of Derek Crone now finds himself about 2 car lengths off the back bumper of Chaburko, this time by the stripe. Again, this battle going on around the back of the middle of the race pack here, about 25th place on back. Other than that, looking like we're pretty much single file all the way through the field. A side-by-side battle just shaping up with the 51 of Tyler Laughlin right now in the 7th spot, looking to get around the 47 of Overland for 5th.
The 51 car moving towards the front of the field, and it's go time for that team as they'll come up next time by on 26 laps to go. He picks up 2 positions, and Laughlin is going to move up a little bit closer to the front of the field. So Laughlin is getting there, and he is sitting in position number 6 right now, but he's got a very strong top 5 in front of him, including Mitchell Hunt. A couple positions in front. Looks like Trey Edson also going to pick up a spot on Chris Overland in the number 87. So move the 87 up 1 more spot and move Overland back to position number 8. As we work lap number 55, we have 25 laps to go next time by the stripe.
Now we're starting to see a green flag run start to shake out here. You mentioned the amount of laps remaining, 25 or so when we come by the start-finish line. Still a long way to go, and these guys' average lap time's about 5 seconds, under a minute, being 55 seconds. Right now, the top two have broken away just a little bit, but the 91 of Josh Berry continuing to work his way forward. He is a fast car, took to the grid in 8th spot. He's sitting 3rd right now and trying to close in on these top two. Last time by, it was about half a second between the 91 of Barry and the number 1 place car, the 58 of Kenny Humpy. This time by the stripe, timing is going to update. He's going to gain a little bit of time, but Humpy and Lawton pretty much are bumper to bumper up front. Then a little bit of a back gap to Josh Berry in 3rd, and then it's over 2 seconds if you want to find a 4th place car. The 42 of Dylan Duvall has actually just been passed by the 19 of Mitchell Hunt there going through 1.
So Mitchell Hunt will pick up that position. He'll move to position number 4 and put Duvall back to 5th. And we start to see those drivers that have a real good long run car or a longer run car start to come to the front. We saw Mitchell Hunt fall back on that restart, and now he's starting to pick up some positions and pick up some time. We'll see how much he can gain on the top 3, because they are 2.5 seconds ahead of the 19 car as they complete this time by lap number 56. It's Humpy, Lawton, and Barry, your top 3, with Mitchell Hunt and the 42 of Dylan Duvall completing your top 5. And the 58 actually swaps the lead with the 26 that time by, missed that lead change. It's Chad Lawton up in front with Kenny Humpy, Josh Berry, your top 3. And it looks like Mitchell Hunt actually gained some time there as your leader swapped. It's now 2.3 seconds between positions 1 and 4. So Mitchell Hunt going to try to gain a little bit of time here. We'll see how much he can gain here, though, as we continue to soldier on here on lap number 57.
Inevitably, those top 3 are really starting to sort out in the battle. You mentioned Chad Lawton being able to get back to the number 1 spot, the 91 of Barry. He's now going to want to look for a way around the 58 of Kenny Humpy, who is now the number 2 placed car, as Josh Berry has caught these guys. These guys has lost about a 1/10 of a second or 2 on that gap that they had over 4th place as they've been side by side. Lots of people shuffling positions around the 13th spot. That is since single filed out, and they're side by side behind them for 20th as the 89 of Landon Harrison is trying to get around and completing the pass on the 27 of Cody Bias. So that battle going on actually for the 19th spot. Move the Harrison in the 89 to P19 at this point, and Bias in the 27 going to have to regroup and try to get that position back here.
Keep a half eye on your leaders. The 58 of Kenny Humpy tried to move to the inside of the 26 into corner number 1 that last time by, but could not get the run, got on the rumble strips and kind of upset the race car, it looked like a little bit in the NRT servers. Number 58, he's going to have to settle back into position number 2 for the time being. He's got the 91 of Josh Berry behind him and the 26 of Chad Lawton just in front of him. So we'll come up at a corner number 3 this time by, complete number 58. And you mentioned the point leader, Landon Harrison, a few moments ago, the number 89 car, back there in position number 19, and actually 18 now as he passed that 3 car, Brandon Schmidt, on that last lap. And one of the crew chiefs on that race car, Harrison Weidelit, says the car is okay, just letting a little bit of strategy play out at this point as he begins to move to the front of the field. The closest competitor to him in the point standings, Josh Berry, as the caution flag will fly here for the back of the field. I was about to say Josh Berry, your closest competitor in the point standings for Landon Harrison. He's running 3rd, so maybe this strategy, this caution might play into it for the 89. We'll see how this works.
And definitely the caution flag back out. I do believe it is the 22 machine going to go into the outside wall. That was Rob Ackley. He was running in 12th place. Looks like going into the 17 machine on the inside. That's Justin Trombley. He came over the radio and apologized for it. Caught the left rear of the 22. 22 got sideways, saved the race car, and a caution flag flies for that. But yet, I do remember earlier in the race we saw 2 cars wreck and there was no caution. So a little bit of a strange yellow flag here, but nonetheless, under the caution flag, we're going to group them back up and go green within 20 laps, and it's going to get pretty wild, I think, from here on out.
Yeah, not sure how that one, how the sim scored that one. 2 cars wreck, and there's 1 part in the apron, and no caution comes out. But little spin there, and that's the flag. So we'll slow our field down again, and that long green flag run is all for naught. But we will restart with less than 20 laps to go. So these drivers should be able to make it on fuel if they do pit here. this could very well be a very key pit stop to determining the winner of this event. And especially if we do get caution fever or yellow fever at the end of this race, you get a good pit stop here, you come out near the front of the field, you control all these starts and all these restarts, you're going to be sitting pretty good, if not for a win, at least for a top 5 finish, and that would be a good point night, and especially for a guy like Chad Lawton or Kenny Humpy, who was outside the top 25 in the point standings, or a Dylan Duval, who's out there as well, trying to get something happening. But Josh Berry, who's sitting in second in the standings, first when you include that drop race in to the first 4 races, and then Mitchell Hunt, who, if you include that drop, he's running 4th in the point standings. So there's 2 drivers up there that are looking to continue the season that they are on, and there's some other drivers that are really looking to turn this around. So pit stops could very well be the deciding factor here, as the 26 will look towards pit road, this time by the double clutch Chevrolet SS is going to come to pit road. He's going to bring some friends with him, and we'll see who does come off pit road first and who plays some strategy.
Yeah, this is going to be the final stop, most likely, for all of these guys coming down the pit lane, again led by the 26 of Lotland. We've seen some guys, remember we saw early in the race, guys come down in the second spot and lose spots, so you really want to nail it. Coming down into your pit stall, don't overshoot it and don't brake too early, trying to get everything you can out of this to set yourself in. The 26 of Lawton sideways going into his box, but he's in there, looking like it's going to be a 4-tire stop for him as the right sides go up on that race car down, and now the crew is going to go over to the left side. They're going to fill it up with fuel to the race here. Some 2-tire strategies as 4 cars going to go with 2, maybe 5 of them going to beat him off the pit lane. So this is going to be interesting here when we look for the green flag.
Yeah, we got some drivers that made some strategies, including the 89 Landon Harrison. You said letting that strategy play out. Landon Harrison took 2 tires on that stop. He is your point leader, and he will come out among the top 5 off pit road, including PJ Sturgis. We got John Adams, Chris Overland, and one more car back there. That was Paul Kashiba that also took 2 tires there, so playing a little bit of strategy for those 5 drivers. The driver that did stay out on the racetrack, though, I believe is the 3, Brandon Schmidt, and he was not the only one that stayed out on the racetrack. I believe a couple of these drivers were trying to lead laps or trying to lead something here to get the extra bonus point. Charlie Foster stayed out. Ashley Miller stayed out, albeit Ashley Miller is not on the lead lap at this point. He should be your free pass car. And Nick Morse in the number 9 also stayed out on the racetrack. So we'll see out of those 3 cars who decides to stay out at this point, because we're working down towards the end of the race, and every single piece of real estate in this racetrack is going to be really key.
And this is going to set us up for exactly what we've seen these last 2 races, and that is really a shootout to the finish. Again, no green-white checkers in the iRacing system, so you really want to hang on to the number 1 spot. Lotland lost it on the pit lane from strategy. Can he get a long enough green flag run in to get back to the lead? It all going to come down to, do you spin the tires on the restart? There's so many variables that can come into this, but I do believe it's going to end up like we saw the last 2 races, and that's going to be a caution shootout really to the finish here, and hanging on to track position is going to be key. I mean, all the strategy that we've seen a handful of guys come down the pit lane. You could say off-scheduled pit stops, maybe playing a little bit of different strategy, coming down by themselves with a couple other guys on the yellow flags. It sets you up for this, and where you're sitting right now on the racetrack is what you're going to have to work with, and then we're going to have a shootout here to the finish, again, within 20 laps to go, somewhere in the ballpark of 17, 16 to go here, looking for the green flag. Brandon Schmidt now sitting P1, Charlie Foster 2nd, Nicholas Morse 3rd, Chris Overland 4th, John Adams 5th, PJ Sturgis 6th, Paul Kushiba 7th, Alex Warren 8th, and Landon Harrison 9th, and then Chad Lawton is sitting in 10th. Some of those guys coming down the pit lane, including Alex Warren this last time around. But once everything updates, Chad Lawton is going to find himself in a predicament that he's too familiar with this season, and that is going to try to dig himself, get back to the front before he gets caught up in something, because it's about to go down here at Pocono.
You got Last Row Motorsports running 1, 2, 3 right now. That's the 9 car sporting some new colors. I believe that's newcarinf.com on that race car. Has been sporting some different sponsors this season, and I know he's proud to fly those colors. But you got Last Row Motorsports in the top 3 positions when we go back to green, and maybe they have a strategy that is going to play out. I remember back to Jake Sturgis at Vegas a couple of years ago. There's been some strategies where guys stay out knowing that the race could very well see caution after caution after caution, and they end up, if not winning the race, doing fairly well in that race. So there's some strategies that could very well be played out here when we come down to the end of this event. You got the three of Brandon Schmidt, Charlie Foster, and Nicholas Morris hoping for something to happen near the front of the field with John Adams and Chris Overland 5th and 4th place respectively. Then 6th through 10th, it's PJ Sturgis, Paul Kashiba, Alex Warren, Landon Harrison, and Chad Lawton, your top 10, as the lights should go out this time by, and we should be back to racing next time by the stripe, and indeed they do. So we have less than 20 laps to go, and we'll get ready to go back to green flag racing. So we are getting ready to go back to racing. Well, not sure where Evan decided to go. I guess the microphone cord may have got pulled out or something there, but nevertheless, we'll see where Evan got to. I'm sure he is lost somewhere at this point as we get ready to go back to racing. Schmidt, Foster, Morse, Overland, and Adams, your top 5. So we are doubled up, getting ready to go back, and we'll see what happens here. Evan mentioned it before he fell out of here. It's the 26th of Chad Lawton in 9th. Former leader of this race, and a driver that is needing to come back to the front of the field because he needs a great run in this event, in this series, and now he runs in position number 9. We'll see what happens here as we get ready to go back to green. Working through corner number 3, Brandon Schmidt, Charlie Foster, Nick Morse, your top 3. It's all last row motorsports in your top 3 spots with Chris Overland and John Adams, your top 5. We welcome in Harrison Weidlitz to the show. Evan's gone somewhere, so Harrison going to pitch in for these last 17 laps. Pace car in, and Brandon Schmidt is gone. A green flag flies, the 9 of Morse now to the inside, and the 13 on the outside of Charlie Foster. We're going to fan out 52 in the fence, 21 is around. This should bring the pace car back out on the racetrack. Caution flag will fly again.
Yeah, absolutely. This is becoming a trend right here. A lot of cautions late in the going in this race ever since about halfway through. And a lot of the guys playing a little bit of strategy, only getting as much fuel as they need, going with 2 tires. And so this helps a lot of the guys who are close on fuel be able to make it to the end. By the time we go back green flag racing again, it'll be about 14 laps to go.
And the 52-cent spinning on this one, Patrick Baldwin, and another sim chassis car tore up. We saw Robert Hall a little bit earlier in the race go for a ride, and it looks like just on this restart, the 52 of Pat Baldwin, 48 of Chip Burko, and the 21 of John Gorlinski comes down on the 52, and those 2 cars go for a ride, and we're under caution once again with less than 20 laps to go. Patrick Baldwin and John Gorlinski, last week's winner at Daytona, going to have to come from the rear of this field. We saw that strategy, though, play out, Harry. We have Brandon Schmidt, we have Nicholas Morris, and we have Charlie Foster, 2 or 3 LMR guys, or LRM guys, I should say, running up front. They don't pit. They should have enough fuel to go to the end of the race, and they have no tires compared to some of those guys out back that took 2 tires or 4 tires. What do you think of this strategy?
You know, right now it's certainly not looking like a bad move at all. And certainly the tire disadvantage doesn't seem to be too much of a disadvantage, as we've seen the guys go for track position over tires, and it worked out for quite a ways. And obviously, you know, within 15 laps to go, it's not too much time at Pocono, but this is a track that takes about 54 seconds to navigate around. And so they're pretty vulnerable, but in the grand scheme of things, they really just don't want to wreck. They want to get some kind of finish, come out of here with some points, because all these guys are thinking top 20.
And I think you got to think that way now, especially with the top 20 in the point standings being the place to be. You really need to get up there and get in to the top 20 in the standings. And we mentioned earlier that there are some drivers Chad Lawton, Kenny Humpy, those guys that were running up front prior to this shuffle of pit stops, they're now running in 10th, 11th place. We've seen Humpy this season not have the ideal forecast when it comes to the looking at the points, wrecking on lap 1 in a couple of races. What does Kenny Humpy and Chad Lawton have to do now to get back up into the top 5 here and possibly contend for this victory?
Yeah, and Chad as well. Chad's a driver who's had a lot of rough luck and got caught up in a lot of incidents early on in the season, but I think Kenny might be further down in points than Chad. But they got to be thinking big picture, avoid all the trouble, just get what they can, and come home with a decent finish. Obviously, with ground to make up, and this is a short 10-race series, and so these guys are desperate, but they can't get too desperate, because if they fall out of their rhythm, that's where you make a mistake. That's where you make moves that put you in a vulnerable position. And so Kenny Humpy and Chad Lawton, both really good drivers, and they should have no problem. Just need to get their mentality in check to come out of here with a good finish. But I tell you what, these restarts are absolutely crazy at Pocono Raceway, and so a lot of these guys are just vulnerable. 3-4 wide, we've seen it all race.
Now I see Evan Pasoko is getting back in the booth here. He'll be joining us momentarily, but I know we plucked you off the box of Landon Harrison, your point leader coming in, and we've documented between himself and Josh Berry, because it really seems like with Robert Hall having some bad luck this evening, that very may well be the battle for the championship if this continues up this way. Landon's running 7th, Josh Berry's running 13th. It was flip-flopped a little bit earlier, and now we have Landon running 7th, Josh Berry running 13th with a little bit different strategy. What was the strategy behind the 89 team taking those 2 tires, and do we possibly see the 89 padding the point lead a little bit more here this evening?
Hopefully. I guess the answer for that is hopefully. Earlier on, he has a pretty decent car. It seems to be getting through the center pretty well, and he was able to run legitimately in the top 10. And of course, he came in on a pit stop that made him lose quite a bit of track position. So when that caution fell, where most cars came down pit road, he's got Ray Alfala helping him out, Jordan Hightower, a few guys like that. And we were all pushing him to try something. So he went with 2 tires, just added enough fuel to make it. His fuel was close, but at this point it's not close at all with 2 cautions in a row. He's a very safe on fuel. And so I think it's just try anything to get that track position and hope for the best.
And you're on the inside to start this race. How aggressive do you tell the driver to be, knowing that you can't hop to the inside with this series? There's no lane changes until after the start-finish line. How aggressive do you tell your driver to be with the field of drivers in front of him? He's got John Adams, a former winner here. He's got Chris Overland. Then he's got 3 guys that stayed out on the last caution flag or 2 caution flags ago. How aggressive do you tell the point leader to be, knowing that he's got that point lead?
The big thing is when you're high, you don't want to give too much room if he gets caught high, because then you could lose all that track position in a hurry. You got to try to fight these guys and hold them off as long as you can. Obviously, as you said, can't make a move before the start-finish line. But usually people get pretty aggressive here by the time they get to turn 1. It seems like a lot of 3 wide. So that's a benefit to being on the bottom, is you can stay in those battles and just hope that they don't come down into you if there's trouble above you. And so aggression, it's sort of a fine line that you're playing with. But he can afford to be pretty aggressive. But he's a very smart driver. He's not going to do anything stupid. He'll just go for it if it's there and he knows he can clear him.
Sasha Wessler gets the free pass. He is 4 laps down. That car looks a little straighter than it was before. Ashley Miller has scored his 1 lap down, so I'm not sure why he didn't get the free pass, but I'm sure there's a good explanation behind that. I know Harry's got the radio in his hand. I know he's itching to get back with Landon Harrison's team, but stick close just in case we need you. The Harrison Widelets pinch hitting for us here. I see Evan Pasoko's got all wired up again, and we're getting ready to go back to green. Evan, we have 12 laps to go when we go green. Brandon Schmidt, Nick Morse, Charlie Foster, John Adams, Chris Overland within the top 5. Overland on the outside, Adams on the inside for this restart.
Yeah, the computer decided to take a dump on me. Good thing we got one of those long cautions to get everything plugged back in over here. But yeah, they wrecked it, not even getting into the turn 1 there. And I mean, we talked about it all race long. That's what we're gonna see here when it gets down to the end. Caution after caution after caution. That's the way it's gonna be. The 3 of Brandon Schmidt reporting debris in turn 3. He wants the caution to be extended about 12 more laps, but he's gonna have to battle for it because the lights are off on that Ford's first racing Mustang pace car. We're doubled up. Nicholas Morris is going to be on the outside. We still haven't been able to see what Chad Lawton's going to try to do all the way back there from 10th place. Everybody in front of him on different tire strategy, and again, if we don't see a long green flag run of at least a couple laps here, the move by the 3 machine could pay off. We've seen that in previous races, that a big swing at the end of things get you in victory lane. So let's see what happens here as we're looking to come to the green flag to take lap number 69 and 12 laps to go.
And Harrison even said it, it's that big move that puts you closer to the front of the field. Had the point leader running in 20th, now he's running within the top 10. That could be the move that puts him a little bit closer to the top 5, or puts him a little closer to the win, or puts him closer to padding that point lead, because Josh Berry is starting 3 cars behind him in position number 13. We'll see if Last Row Motorsports can pull off a top 3 sweep here, or Chris Overland. Well, he's up there as well in that team. He's looking to make it a 4 for Last Row Motorsports. How about John Adams running in position number 5? Adams is going to try to get up there. PJ Sturgis, another one of the Last Row Motorsports drivers. They're looking pretty good right now near the front of this field. Pace car going to peel off here. We have 12 laps to go, and we go green, and Schmidt is going to be on here. Green flag flies, and we are completing lap number 68. This is where everything gets exciting. John Adams to the inside of the 13. Adams in the Mud Jug Portable Spittoons car is the 89. Also goes to the inside. Oh boy, turn 1's going to get hairy.
Adams throws it in there. He hangs on for now. The 04 is up, getting into the back of the 57. They're going to get real tight back there around Lukaska. Lukaska's trying to hang on. Still 3 wide. There he goes. Lukaska's into the outside wall. They're pointed forward for now, and now they stack up. Duval's in it. The 17 machine of Justin Trombley's in it. And the caution flag back out at Pocono. And we saw that one coming.
Yeah, there's a lot of cars that are tore up here. Your 2-point leaders get through it, and they will they'll get through it. The 15 of Brandon Atkinson is one of those drivers that's stuck on the access lane, and he is he's going to be tore up from that one. Justin Trombley, the 27 of Cody Bias, gets through that. The 42 with Dylan Duval goes for one hell of a ride. Brandon Chaburko also involved. Chaburko, one of those top 10 drivers in the point standings. So there's at least a half dozen cars that are involved in this one. Lukaska in the 04. I believe that's Tom Moustakis in the 10, another driver that just can't buy a break in this series. The 10 car is tore up again, and man, there's a lot of good cars that are going to be trying to at least keep the thing running for the last 10 laps of the race to try to get probably a top 30 finish to this race. We had 36 drivers in the lead lap prior to that, and I'm sure we're going to lose 3 or 4 of those here because of this wreck.
And somebody else that almost got caught up in that again, the 26 of Chad Lawton. The cars that started that wreck was about 5 feet in front of him, and he managed to put a great piece of driving together to get around that. And that was with the 04 machine that really got this whole thing started. They were 3 wide. They were 3 wide back in the pack, but you could see the intensity up here at the front of the field. The 04 was 3 wide, and it looks like it was the 32 machine initiating the contact, meaning Paul Kashiba getting into the outside wall, maybe the slightest bit, or maybe just losing it, trying to stay off that wall because the 04 was there. He didn't want to get into him, ended up getting loose, collecting the 04. They went into the outside wall, and they were fine for the time being. They got stuck up against the outside wall, but then the 32 shot off, the 04 shot off. That pretty much blocked the racetrack for 2-3 seconds there and piled about 6-7 cars into this thing, spinning down through the grass. And again, you mentioned several of those guys are just torn up, and we're going to group them back up again and go for it again. If we see another quick caution, maybe after this, 1 restart left in store for us, depending on how the caution flags fly. Again, once we get it within about 4, maybe 4 or 5 laps, a caution will pretty much end the race with no green-white checkers. So the 3 of Brandon Schmidt is starting to like this strategy call. Started this race 22nd, sitting P1 right now. All he has to do at this point is nail those restarts, and he's looking pretty good.
But then you have John Adams in that number 84 car that was really aggressive on that restart, and really that's how you have to be with the way this thing is shaping up. A lot of the drivers near the mid-pack or the back of the pack bringing out these caution flags. If you're John Adams or you're Chris Overland, albeit you are racing a few teammates up there, Landon Harrison, you saw that move to the inside, and Jeremy Lukaska tried to go with him, and you saw what happened there a couple of corners later. But you really have to be aggressive. There's really no ways about it. If you want to gain positions, you have to be aggressive, and you have to be near the front of the field in order to make those moves for the win. And we saw John Adams do it. It's just a matter of if he can get some more green flag laps, or at least time under the green flag to set up some of those passes. You're not going to get 3 cars into corner number 1. Well, you could get 3 cars into corner number 1. Chances are, though, you're not going to get 3 cars going into corner number 1 unless you use the bumper to do it. And then the series officials aren't going to be very happy when they look at that incident. But John Adams is one of those drivers that can be aggressive, and I'm sure he's going to look for at least a top 3 finish here and see what he can do if we do get some green flag laps. And we're going to have at least 1 restart. We might have 2 restarts depending on how this thing plays out and how quickly a caution flag does come out, if it does decide to come out. Your top 10 are Brandon Schmidt, Nick Morse, Charlie Foster, John Adams, Chris Overland, with PJ Sturgis, Landon Harrison, Kenny Humpy, Josh Berry, Chad Lawton, your top 10. And then you have Mitchell Hunt back there in 11th place, who was strong earlier. And then you have a bunch of guys that were running either mid-pack to the back of the pack that are still trying to gain some positions and gain some spots. Derek Crone was strong a little bit earlier. Brandon Hoff was strong earlier. They run 16th and 17th respectively. Then you got some guys. Brian Blackford was in the top 10 earlier. He's back to 20th place. John Gorlinski had damage earlier. He's in 23rd. The list goes on and on. Dylan Duval, of course, involved in that latest wreck, heavy contact for the 42. But the top, I would say the top 11 or so, a lot of those drivers that were near the front of the field earlier or have been near the front of the field for most of the night, with the exception of a couple of drivers that did play some pit strategy, those are the drivers that are looking for this win. Just a matter of how many laps they get under green.
And definitely not a lot of shuffling went on really in the top 10 throughout all this. And again, Brandon Schmidt is able to hang on to that number 1 spot. Again, because of the tire strategy call, we saw that when everybody came down to pit lane with about 20 to go to the final pit stop, who would take 2, who might even take none. And Brandon Schmidt's in the number 1 spot. We saw a similar scenario early in the season at Phoenix, where the guy going to victory lane was actually flipped earlier in the race, and it all comes down to that last strategy call and hoping on the cautions. And this could be in an exact same scenario, and this race has really played out the exact way that we thought. Maybe we were hoping for a little bit more of a green flag run at the midway point. Pocono is known for some green flag laps. 43 cars started this race. It's a lot of cars. The track is wide, but sometimes going 2-3 wide, as we've seen, you just can't keep it pointed forward. And now we find ourselves, Tim, like we do every week, where we're coming down to the end here, and it's going to come down to these restarts. Brandon Schmidt in the 3. If he nails the restarts, I think it's his race to lose at this point, but don't count out the 9 of Nicholas Morris, Charlie Foster. You mentioned John Adams in the 84. He's sitting P4 right now. He'll be starting on the outside lane. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing shakes out. You mentioned possibly 1 more restart after this, depending on how the caution flags fly. If we do see a caution, the lights are still on the pace car right now, so we would be looking to get 1 lap to go this next time around and look to go back green flag racing for lap 74, which is about 6-7 laps to go. So if a caution were to fly soon, we'd have maybe a 1-2 lap shootout. That would be interesting for sure. But really, these guys just have to keep on thinking about it with these 2-minute pace laps. So many scenarios going through in their minds. Harrison jumped up here. You mentioned he's crewing. That's what these guys are going to be discussing right now, and the crew chiefs and the spotters are definitely going to be real busy letting everyone know what's going on here. Looks like the 9 Nicholas Morris pulling up beside Schmidt, so we're looking to get 1 to go here. The lights are off now.
So we'll be going back to green next time by. We'll complete 73 when we come back across the stripe. So we'll have 7 laps to go. So if this race does go caution real quickly, within the next 2 laps or so, we will probably see 1 more restart, and it'll be a 1 or 2 lap dash to the finish from there. But nevertheless, we'll see what happens here as the 3 and the 9 are going to restart on the front row of this one. And Harrison Weidelitz, I'm sure, and Ray Alfala, Jordan Hightower, everybody on the 89 team is telling their driver the same thing everybody else is telling their drivers. You got to go, and you got to go on this restart and gain as many positions as you can before these guys go into corner number 1 or number 2 and they see that caution flag come up. So you have to dig. You have to go as hard as you can here. And when you look at the 89 car, Landon Harrison, I'm sure Laura can get a nice little shot of who's running behind him. That's Josh Berry in the number 91 car. Your 2-point leaders are going to line up nose to tail on this restart. We'll see how key this is. Round number 5 of 10 is going to come down to 7 laps at the Pocono Raceway, and it's going to come down to Brandon Schmidt and Nick Morse on your front row with Charlie Foster, John Adams, and Chris Overland. Your top 5 as we work down towards corner number 3. We'll see who comes out with the win in round number 5. And keep in mind, we've had 4 races this season. We've had 4 different winners. And by the way this thing is shaping up, we're about to have our 5th different winner of this season. It's just a matter of who ends up in victory lane. For the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series, our coverage presented by Double Clutch. WinOnMonday.com. Pace car going to look to pit road here, and Brandon Schmidt can look for one of the biggest restarts in his sim racing career, as he will have to hold off a whole host of hungry drivers. Pace car is in right here. Green flag flies. E3 of Brandon Schmidt is on the hammer. Watch and see what happens with the 9, 13, 3 wide. The 57 of PJ Sturgis sticking his neck out there. He wants to win as we go down to corner number 1. This is going to get tight.
Made on the inside, going to hold off the 9 of Morse, but there goes the 57. He's going to stall out on the top, can't get it done. PJ Sturgis still 3 wide now with the 9 and the 13, 3 wide for second, 2 wide behind them, and the 3 of Schmidt. He is home free. He just needs to stay in front of this mess, as they're 3 wide also back in the pack, but they're now side by side for second. Contact. The 13 is going to get into the 9 of Morse. They're going to stack up at the front of the field. They're sideways pointed forward for now. And the caution flag is going to fly as the 19 of Mitchell Hunt goes around. And this could set us up for a shootout to the finish.
Yeah, we might get 1 lap here to finish off this race. The 19 car is dog tracking, and as you mentioned, it all started with the 57, the 84, and the 13 up in front. Saw the 13 car get a little bit sideways going down to the corner, and it looks like he gets into the 84, and at the same time it pushes the 9 up into the 57, and they all save it. But behind them, the 19 car and the 58 car get into it, and we mentioned Kenny Humpy wrecking on lap number 1, lap number 2 of races. He's going to go until 8 laps to go, or 7 laps to go until this one, but they were 4 wide behind, and as they stacked up behind the 9, the 58 gets in to the 13, the 19 nowhere to go when the 58 comes back down across the racetrack. Innocent victim is Mitchell Hunt. The 33 of Brian Blackford gets involved in it. John Gorlinski may have a little bit of damage from this one as well. Derek Crone, Alex Warren may have got together through that. The 53, I believe, is sporting a little bit of damage as well, but that's a tough break for the 19, Mitchell Hunt, as he was the driver looking for at least a top 10 finish, and he might have to use this drop this evening because he is going to have a little bit of damage, and I'm sure that crew is going to go to work here to try to get that thing repaired and try to salvage what he can out of this race.
It looked like the 57 of Sturgis had found something. He was going to Casey Kane that top lane here on the number 3 of Schmidt, and he just had to, he stalled out, he had to get out of the gas, and that set them up for that 3 wide. They were 3 wide for second, and that's a long straightaway going into turn 2. Maybe the 6 had some, or the 9 machine had some help, but it all started again. The 13 Foster got into the back bumper of the 9. They got sideways. The 04 machine, I know, or the 84 rather, got up into the outside. Well, that was John Adams. We talked about him looking for a top 3. They all got sideways, and eventually the 19 of Mitchell Hunt was the one that got sent around. And now this begs the question again, what is going to set up here for the finish? Currently working lap number 75. I do believe that we're going to go back to the green flag, and it will be more than 1 lap, which means that a caution will end the race, and I don't know if we'll even make it back to the white flag. If it was a 1-lap shootout, who knows what can happen, because once that flag is out, there's no sort of caution that will end the race. Brandon Schmidt had a challenge there, and now we're going to see, can somebody try to make a move on the high side like Sturgis had going? Did anybody take note of that and think that that might be able to happen, such as Chris Overland? How about Chad Lawton in the 26? Again, he runs up front every single race and ends up getting caught up in this. He's managed to avoid 2 of them, and now he finds himself in 4th. Can he get a win that he's been looking for all series long? Also, still a lot of stuff to go here. However, not a lot of time left in the race.
PJ Sturgis has been given an end the longest line penalty, and I am going to guess it's because of a lane change violation. We do not have confirmation on that, but the 57 does go to the outside of the 84 John Adams prior to the start-finish line. There is a lane change rule in this series, and that's the only thing that I can see that would garner a penalty from the race officials, because they don't do in-race officiating of incidents. So that's the only thing that I can think of. 57 apparently wasn't happy because of the penalty, and Shannon Whitmore did not want to hear it. His chat is done for the evening for the 57 PJ Sturgis. So not sure what was said there, but apparently it was fairly naughty according to the race officials. So we will line these cars up next time by, I do believe, or the lap after that, one of those two, and we'll go back to some green flag racing. At least one lap, maybe one corner. All depends what we get out of this one. Brandon Schmidt, Chris Overland, Nick Morse, Chad Lawton, and Landon Harrison. Your top 5 as we get ready to see the green flag momentarily.
Now, if you're the 57 of Sturgis, I think you have a right to be a little bit upset. That's a close call. You're taking a look at the white hash marks. He didn't change those. He did make a little bit of a move to avoid those guys in front of him, but those guys in front of him, if anything, those were the ones that came down a lane and moved into that second group of hash marks. PJ Sturgis, I'd say he has a little bit of a right to be upset. That's a close call by the race officials. From my view, it looked like he stayed in his lane. Definitely he made a move to the outside to make it 3 wide. I mean, that's a tricky one to call. The lights will remain on the pace car this time by as we take lap 77. So we still are looking for the one to go. If we get it the next time around, it's going to set up a green-white checker, or as many people are predicting here, coming to the finish of green-white wreckers here to see if we can even make it to the white flag. And the 3 of Brandon Schmidt, again, trying to throw this Hail Mary here at the end and try to lock it up with that strategy, sit in P1.
Yeah, I'm looking back at the replay. It is a tough call to make for Shannon Whitmore and the iRacing officials that are watching this race, but the rule states there is no lane change. He does keep on the hash marks, but when John Adams goes to the inside, there is a slight movement to the outside, about a half lane up, and it's before the start-finish line. So I guess the iRacing officials may have to define the lane change, or whatever the case may be there, to those drivers. They do have a weekly drivers meeting that is sent out via email. I haven't read that email in probably about 4 weeks or 5 weeks or so, so I honestly can't tell you what's in that rule for a lane change, but apparently that's not what they liked, and PJ Sturgis will start at the end of the longest line, which is back here somewhere around these damaged race cars. He's got Mitchell Hunt in front of him. He's got Sasha Wessler in front of him. He's got Brian Blackford, who's all tore up. So he's going to start probably somewhere outside the top 25. It's going to be exciting to see what he can do in these last few laps, albeit he wasn't a top 5 car prior to the pit stop strategy, but he was just outside the top 10 for most of this race. He's likely going to finish outside the top 20 unless something happens in front of him in the world parts and he gains a few spots here with a last lap wreck. It's going to be exciting to see where he does finish. Lights atop the first Racing Ford Mustang pace car are out. Next time by, we will go green. This will be our final restart. We will go green on lap 79. So we will have a green-white checker or a green caution checker finish to this race.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. If we do get the white flag, these guys will race back to the checkered flag, regardless if there is a wreck or not. They will race back to the checkered flag. So it's either a green-white checker or a green caution checker. One of the two. It all depends what we get to first. You'll see Brandon Schmidt, Chris Overland, Nick Morse, Chad Lawton, Landon Harrison, your top 5. John Adams, who made that aggressive move on those restarts, he's back to 9th with Charlie Foster in 8th. Got Landon Harrison on the inside. You got Josh Berry on the inside. Nick Morse wants to win the race badly in this series. How badly do you race your teammates to win the race, though?
It's going to be interesting to see. We saw contact there that caused this caution. Talking about Nicholas Morse, going over the review here, some people talked about maybe Morse, maybe a little bit of delayed shifting, caused a little bit of a stack up. I'm still going to have to say that I don't like that call, but it is what it is. You're going to have to move on with it because we are going to be looking for the green flag here, and it's going to be interesting to see. All Brandon Schmidt has in mind is to nail the restart because coming out of 2, we're doubled up. You mentioned the lights are off on that Ford First Racing Mustang pace car. This is it. Just like every week, it seems, Tim, it's going to come down to this shootout to the finish, and what happens here is going to determine the win. So pretty much what you've done in these first 78 laps, an hour and a half, really mean nothing coming down to this.
And when you look at Nick Morse might be one of those drivers that really defines the win here. Watch the 3 car, Brandon Schmidt, he's in control. Nick Morse is going to start behind him. Just how hard Nick Morse decides to push and see if he can get past Chris Overland, because I know Overland wants to win bad as well. Pace car in, here we go. Green flag flies, and we are underway with 2 laps remaining in this event. The 9 and the 26 are side by side. Great start for the 3 and great start for the 47. Josh Berry going to make a move to the inside line, and this might not end well. Your point leader side by side, and Berry going to pick up something. We got cars in the wall in 1.
No caution flag yet. The 47 of Overland now to the lead with the 26 of Lawton. Do they throw the caution flag? Will we resort to the last scoring stripe where Schmidt was the leader? Because right now he is in 3rd, and the 47 of Chris Overland is sitting in the number 1 spot. The 26 of Chad Lawton in 2nd, coming out of 2, has a run off the corner. The 47 going to block to the inside. 26 now going to go to the top, going into the 3, side by side for the lead, coming to the white flag.
You better believe that outside line's going to have something here for the 26. It's just a matter if they can get to the stripe first. If the 26 can put up a run for this last lap. White flag is out and Overland is gone. The 26 and 3 are side by side. We will have a green flag finish to this race for the first time in this season. Overland is gone by about 4 lengths. It's side by side for second. The 3 of Brandon Schmidt on the inside of the 26 of Chad Lawton. Lawton will take position number 2. Schmidt back to position number 3. Your point leader, Josh Barrier, one of them is in the fence. At a corner number 1, we stay green down into corner number 2, this time by the 47 of Chris Overland. Leads the 26, the 3, as we have another driver up near the wall as they continue on. The 9, 27, and 89 are going at it as well. That's for position number 5. 27 pokes to the outside of the 9, but up in front, it's all Chris Overland. The 47 double clutch Menard Chevrolet SS comes up at a corner number 3, and he will win at the Pocono Raceway. Chad Lawton comes home in position number 2 with Nick Morse, Cody Bias, and your 5th place finisher, or check that, Cody Bias 5th, Landon Harrison 6th, Brandon Schmidt up there in position number 3 with Nick Morse, Cody Bias, your top 5. That's crazy. That's the first time we've had a green flag finish this race, or a race this season in this NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series, and it's Overland going to victory lane.
And that all comes down to the restart from Chris Overland. He timed that thing perfectly. They were pretty much dead even at the stripe, so he didn't beat them to it. And then again, PJ Sturgis got there on the outside. I was wondering if anyone was going to go for it, and he went for it with Lawton, and it looked like the 26 of Chad Lawton was going to get it in 3 and just stalled out. He lost the speed. The 47 put the block on him at a 2, and he's going to go to victory lane. And I mean, they were in the wall behind them, and the irony of it is that we don't see a caution this time around, so the yellow flags continue to baffle us a little bit. But nonetheless, a great win and a very deserving victory for Chris Overland. Looking to pick that thing up as he parks it over here at the start-finish line to celebrate that W.
Landon Harrison 6th, Josh Berry 23rd. You look back through the list, obviously the 30 car had a bad run this evening. Robert Hall finished back in 40th. 48 car is up there as well, and as I mentioned already, Josh Berry finishes 23rd. Brandon Chaburko 20th. Chris Overland wins this race, so he's going to come a little bit closer to Landon Harrison, but it looks like the number 89 car going to pad that lead once again, and a great finish for the Sonic Chevrolet as Landon Harrison will come away with a little bit of a deeper point lead. We'll wait to see who joins us here from the top 5, and we'll briefly talk to them here in the post-race show. Long race this evening. Hour and 54 minutes run time for Chris Overland to complete 80 laps here this evening. That doesn't include the pre-race stuff, the happy hour, all that fun stuff. So we'll see who we can gain, and I believe Chad Lawton is our first victim, as we'll bring down Chad Lawton, and Evan Pasoka will catch up with driver number 26, Chad Lawton.
And that's definitely we're
going to step away, I guess, for a few moments. Commercial. Up next with Chad Lawton. Don't go away.
it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Travis, start your engines!
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4 in the checkered flag. He wins his first NASCAR iRacing.
Welcome back to Pocono Raceway, and since we had time to go to commercial break, I've made my way down trackside to talk to Chad Lawton, driver of the number 26 double clutch Chevrolet SS, coming home in position number 2. Chad, that was wild to say the least.
Yeah, those seems like in this series no one can put their heads on straight the last 30 laps. I mean, if you go back to the last 5 races, I don't think there's been a 5 laps or more a green flag run within 30 to go. So it's pretty hectic. Those restarts, but I mean, can't be mad. Having those 3 or 4 restarts within 20 laps, they got me from 10th to 4th and then to 2nd, so it kind of worked out in my favor for once.
And let's talk about that pit strategy. When we see those last row guys stay out on the racetrack, you come down pit road, you start in 10th place. What's going through your mind when you're sitting back there with 10, 15, 20 laps to go?
Pretty upset. I figured the people that took 2 tires probably made the smartest decision. And then the people who I think Charlie Foster and Brandon Schmidt didn't take any tires, I figured they'd be all right if we got like 2 or 3 cautions, which we did, I guess. So they guessed right, but I was a little upset, but I figured everyone would have took 4 tires there. I think we did 10 to 15 laps, and I guess not. So it worked out. It worked out in Chris Overland's favor. I mean, congratulations on his first win, I think, in one of these big series. And, you know, it was a decent race, I guess, for the most part.
And we head next week to Michigan, another one of those racetracks. It's wide open. We got a lot of space to race. And as we've seen in this series, there's been a lot of restarts. So those will be hairy as well. But what do we expect out of Michigan when we go racing next weekend?
I think similar to the last 5 weeks, I think we'll have a stretch of, we'll have about 20 to 30 laps maybe, if that. And then, you know, when we get down to 40 to go, someone's going to cause a caution, and we'll sit there and ride around under caution for the entire race, the rest of it. So
I know you got a lot of sponsors on the race car, and you got some teammates as well. Who makes that happen for you?
Everyone on my team there: Dylan Duvall, Kenny Humpy, Richard Doucette, Kevin King. Richard was out this week because of incident problems, so me and Kenny put together a damn good Pocono setup, and Rich threw a lot of changes into it and got it to where we needed it. And I mean, I led the most laps again, I think, this out of the 3 of the 5 races, and I seem to be really fast. But most of all, I want to thank Matt Meach Racing. Go to mattmeachracing.com. Check out his cool site that he has. He's on the car and double clutch with Ed and Jennifer, and their sponsorship for this series. And thank you for jumping in the booth there every week there, Tim.
And that's Chad Lawton finishing in position number 2. Probably the happiest person on the iRacing service right now. Drives a yellow double clutch Menards number 47. Evan Pasoko is down in victory lane with Chris Overland.
And I think that could be an understatement, Tim. He's climbing out of the car right now down here in the Gatorade victory lane. Chris Overland going to get race win number 1 on the 2013 NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series campaign. And Chris, after last week at Daytona where you led laps and then did not get the result that you deserved, what does it mean to finally wrap this thing up and get that W?
I can't breathe. That was insane. Oh, what do I even say? Oh, I gotta thank all the guys at LRM first off. Gotta thank Chad for racing me clean at the end there. Nick Morse, man, and Joey Brown, those two guys, they saw something in me that I didn't even see, and they gave me a shot at joining their team, and they've just shown me nothing but good cars and great personalities since I've been over there. So first off, big thanks to them. Joey gave me 2 tires on that last restart, and I knew that if I had a shot there, that I was going to give it my all. And I'm just trying to catch my breath right now. This is insane. People don't realize how much these races get your heart going. As far as, I mean, I know it's just turning a fake steering wheel, but man, they're intense.
And we were glued to the screen like we are every week when it came down to the end, when it was caution after caution, and then you found that top lane. We saw the caution before that, PJ Sturgis in the 57 try to get something going there on the top, and then you made it work in one. How'd you make that thing stick to get the P1 there out of 1?
Well, I gotta thank Brandon Schmidt, because he was on older tires and he recognized it. I think if there was anybody else underneath me there, they would have thrown it in, not cared about who was on the outside of me. But Brandon and I have been friends for almost 3 years now, and he's shown me so much respect, and I got to thank him. It was amazing to be able to race for the win there, and I actually pulled it off. I can't believe it.
This is definitely going to help you in the overall championship standings. When it's all said and done out of tonight's race. Now that you can really assert yourself as a championship contender, obviously being in the top 10 in points, but now getting that win under your belt, looking forward to the next week when we go to the Michigan International Speedway and there on out. How confident are you going into next week's race?
I don't know, because I didn't think... In the middle of this race, I was running mid-pack 15th, 16th, and the car was really good on the long run, but I just didn't see myself in victory lane at the end of the night. I can't tell you where I'm going to be 2 weeks from now, because things change so fast here, and the series is so unpredictable, and I don't know. But we're gonna give it our all. Joey Brown is going to be behind the pit box here for the rest of the races till DWC begins, so I don't think anything's impossible with him working on the car.
And definitely, obviously, who makes it happen for you? We heard shout-outs to teammates and other drivers for racing to clean there. Any other sponsors? Anybody else you want to thank?
Well, I got to thank Double Clutch. Eddie Walczyk has definitely been the biggest help of my entire sim racing career, so definitely big ups to him. Last Row Motorsports, again, I already thanked them for a whole monologue, so just one more time, all those guys. Grove Distributors, iRacing Memes, Menards, just everybody who... all the guys at SRG, and I want to say thank you to my grandma Helen, who passed away earlier. I know that she was watching, and she was a great lady. So I just wanted to know that I got her in my thoughts wherever she may be.
And definitely, well, congratulations on a well-deserved victory, and good luck here in the second half of the season.
Thank you very much, guys.
Tim, I do think you're down there on the pit lane with our third place finisher, driving none other than the 3 machine of Brandon Schmidt.
And Brandon Schmidt was the driver that led us to green on those final few restarts and comes home in position number 3. Brandon, walk us through that final restart with 2 laps to go.
Well, that final restart, I knew, the green comes out as soon as that pace car drops off, and I knew Chris knew that, and I knew Chad, he was back there in 4th, I think, and I went as soon as I could, and when I looked to the right outside the car and I seen Chris side by side with me, I really knew that it was pretty much over at that point, unless I really got aggressive with him going into 1, and I wasn't handling too great over the bumps, and last thing I wanted to do was accidentally take him out there, so I just kind of ran it conservatively, and if I could get him, once we got off turn 1, then I would have went for it, but he kind of just pulled away, and thought I was going to get Chad there for a lap, and then he got me back, and I'm just happy to finish in 3rd.
And it all comes down to that call made with about 20 laps to go to stay out on the racetrack when everybody else came down pit road. Who was behind the call for the Last Row Motorsports team for you guys to stay out there? How cool was it to have 4 of the top 5 spots at one point in that race? And it looked like you were almost going to have a top 5 sweep at one point.
Yeah, a lot of people on the team pretty much called it, but PJ was definitely the one that really convinced me to stay out, because if I think I was running top 10 most of the race, but towards the middle there I got off sequence, and I think when that caution came out I was running 18th, and if I would have pitted and took 2 tires I probably would have stayed around there anyway, so the only obvious choice was to stay out, knowing how this series has been going in the last 30-40 laps this season. So it was kind of a no-brainer, and it worked out the way we figured it would, and overall it was just a good night for the whole team.
And coming into this race, you came in 16th place in the point standings with everybody so tight around there. It looks like you're going to gain some more spots heading into Michigan. What do we expect out of Michigan from this team?
Oh, Michigan will be really fast. Michigan is one of my favorite tracks, and I run really well there, no matter what car we're in there, and I'm really excited for it. And I know that we already got a pretty good setup going in there, and Joey Brown's been putting in a lot of testing for us and everything, and he's really good at tweaking these setups and coming up with some really good bases for us to base our setups off. And I think you'll see it Latro Motorsports up towards the front, definitely at Michigan.
You mentioned some of the great teammates. You also have some great sponsors on this race car. Who makes it happen for you each week?
Yeah, I want to thank Unique Signs and Designs, Dylan Schmidt for sponsoring, and also Randy Collins of GunnerForSR.com. They both give me a lot of support and a lot of cool stuff on the side, and I'm just really glad to have them on the car. And every week I try to do the best I can, and this season's been kind of rough. Texas, we were run top 5 with like 6 to go and got taken out, but it shows when we don't get caught up in other people's messes, we can run up front, and I hope to continue it next week at Michigan.
And that's Brandon Schmidt coming home with another great finish here this evening. Position number 3 for car number 3. And another driver who needed a real great run this evening and got a top 5 run for Nick Morse in the 9. And I believe Evan Pocono has caught up with the driver of the number 9 car.
And if we just got down here on the pit lane with Nicholas Morse. Nick, you were able to hold off the number 27 machine in those closing laps. First and foremost, what went down in those last 2 laps?
I made a deal with Cody. I knew he was on fresh tires, and I said if you got to the outside of me, I was gonna give it to him. And but he almost got there a couple times, but he did cut me a break. I have to thank Cody a bunch for giving me a break there. And I just want to say congrats to Chris on the win. It's been a long time coming for him. He's grown a bunch with our team, and I'm just really happy and really proud of everyone on LRM tonight.
And what was the strategy call that got you into that position to finish 4th? You took to the grid in this race, 32nd position. You were the 24th fastest in the warm-up. Didn't really get a fast time in there. Didn't get a chance to get up the speed. But qualified 32nd. How'd you manage 4th? What went down there with 20 to go? What was the call on the pit box?
Yeah, I knew I was fast all week. I got a brand new wheel and pedal set this week after DNQing at Phoenix, and I used it at Daytona, but that doesn't really count. And then this was my first real test with it, and I've been so much faster. I'm just not as consistent and stable with it. So I knew I had to play strategy this week until I get more laps under my belt with this new wheel and the pedals. And I knew if I pitted with 40 to go, I'd make it on gas. And a few of the other guys like me and Charlie, we had to gamble because I've had one good finish, one average finish, and I missed a race. So I was too far on the points to just keep going conservative. So I just said, hey, I'm going to take gas, and hopefully we get a few cautions. And it worked out. I just saved a little bit too much. I was only one position behind Charlie when that caution came out that we needed. And I really felt like I had a chance at the win if I could have been out front. But I'll definitely take a 4th after how my season's gone.
And definitely trying to look forward. Obviously, still trying to reach maybe a top 25, top 20. Still a lot of racing to go in this series. Next week, we head to the Michigan International Raceway. How do you feel about that track, first and foremost?
I'm pretty good at Michigan. Even with my other wheel, when I'd burn off the right front, because I didn't have as much rotation in it, I was still a top 5 car there. So pretty happy. I made up half the points that I needed in general last week at Daytona, and I got a 4th this week, so I'm probably pretty close to top 25, top 20 now. And if I can just keep getting top 15s from here on out, I think I've righted the ship, and I put myself in a good spot to capitalize on the final 5 races.
Definitely, that was going to be the next question. You feel confident getting into that top 25. You feel like you can get that done. So any sponsors, people that make it happen for you, shout outs, what do you want to give out there? The mic's all yours.
Yeah, I definitely want to thank New Car Inventory, newcarinv.com for sponsoring me. They're a dealer broker, so if you have inventory at your dealership for up to $180 a month, they can help you reallocate stuff that's aging. I really got to thank Patrick Shelton for coming on board with me, and he's been with me for a few years. I'm happy about that. And then I'd definitely be remiss if I hadn't thanked Madwire Media. I have not put together any good races for them this year, and they put a really big investment in me to see how this pans out. So I got to thank Madwire Media a bunch. They're a full-service SEO inbound marketing agency, and they're all about driving conversions for your business and growing your brand. And I'm just super happy to be partnered with these two companies, and I hope I can continue to, represent them professionally and in a good light for the rest of the season.
And well, looking like right now you're sitting P25 in the standings out of tonight's race. So congratulations on that. Good luck moving forward in the series.
Thank you, Tim.
And I do believe we're going to go down to Adam Gilliland.
Yes, I've caught up with your 5th place finisher, Cody Bias. Cody, talk about your 5th place finish all the way coming from the 40th starting spot.
Man, I tell you what, after messing up my qualifying lap, hitting the wall in both of them, and having to start way back there, I thought I was going to be in for a long race, which I was. And the key part was just to stay cool and calm and just avoid all the mess towards the end that there seems to be week in and week out, and try to be there at the end. And this week I happened to finally have good luck and have a good finish for once.
You're 41st coming into this race, and it looks like you've moved up to 24th after this race. Talk about the battle it's going to be these remaining 5 races to get inside the top 20 and secure yourself into the 2014 NISWC.
As you can see, after like the first 3 weeks weren't that the best, and you put together 2 solid top 10 finishes, and it bumps you up so much in points. It's going to be crucial to try to keep these finishes up for the remainder of the season to ensure myself in the 2014 NISWC.
Lastly, talk about who makes it happen to you, for you.
I'd like to thank everybody at CBR for helping out this week. We've been really fast this season. It's just we haven't had the best of luck. Thank Adam, you for spotting me tonight and keeping me cool and calm and out of trouble. And I'd also like to thank my sponsors, Elwood Designs and CFI, for being great partners throughout the 2 years of me running in the top series of iRacing.
That's Cody Bias, your 5th place finisher. I believe Tim Terry's caught up with your points leader, Landon Harrison.
Well, we might make a broadcaster out of him yet. That's Adam Gilliland, and I want to thank him for coming on board. And after another week, we can say this once again. We are with point leader Landon Harrison, driver of the number 89 Sonic Chevrolet. And Landon, that was wild at the end of that race.
Yeah, 2nd week in a row, I'm up on top of the points. Would you believe it? But yeah, I could have made some different choices there at the end of that race. Like I know Brandon Schmidt got a better finish than me. If I would have stayed out when he stayed out, then maybe we could talk about race winner Landon Harrison. But when it comes down to it, points championship leader ain't too bad. Got 6th. Could have made some different choices to get a better finish on the last lap. But as far as the chaos, with everyone wrecking out so much in this race, especially at the end, can't be too mad with the 6th place finish.
We had Harrison Weidelitz on here after that caution flag that came out, and he said we really had to coax him into doing something big, taking 2 tires, doing something to get some track position. How hard did they have to push you on the radio to do that something to get yourself closer to the front?
Well, I knew we had to do something. I think we were around 20th or something when that came out with like 20 to go. And like the history at this Pocono Speedway, especially DWC this year, last year, it seems like in the last 20 laps or so, it's just, caution after caution. We get maybe 1 or 2 corners in before the yellow flag flies again. And I just knew we had to be out front, but I didn't know if we should stay out or just take 2 tires. And well, we figured, better have some grip or something so I don't get swallowed up by the guys with fresher tires. So we took 2, came out like 9th or 10th or something, just avoid the chaos, and that's what I was hoping. And just the good finish came to me.
And when we came into this evening, we talked about the Landon Harrison-Josh Berry battle. Josh Berry finishes 23rd. It may now be the battle between Landon Harrison and Chris Overland. Overland wins this race. You and him were close when you included the drop in the points. When you don't include the drop, it's only a couple of points between yourself and the 47 car. I know you've raced with a lot of drivers. How about the battle between yourself and Chris Overland in the final 5 races? Because we are halfway now.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tim. It's just this championship battle changes every week, and I may be on top of the points now, but I just feel like any race coming up, things are going to change really quickly. It's so easy to get caught into an accident and just fall back to 30th or 40th, and it's just luck's been on my side. The racing gods have been watching over me or something. But So we've avoided all the wrecks. Now it's me and Chris. Like last week, it was me, Josh, and Richard Doucette. And I'd bet next week it's probably going to be different. I may not be on top of the points next week, and maybe 2 other drivers. So I'm hoping we can keep this streak of good luck on our side going to the second half of the season. But stuff can change really quickly.
You got some sponsors on the side of the race, Karen. You had about 8,000 people in your ear on the radio this evening. Who makes it happen for you?
Well, I got to thank JD Laird for painting this awesome Sonic Chevrolet. Got to remind everybody to go to Sonic on Tuesdays and select locations after 5 o'clock. You can get half-price single patty burgers, so you can chow down on a nice juicy cheeseburger while watching the DWC or Pro Series and watching that Sonic Chevrolet go around the track and get top 10 finishes. Got to thank Harrison Weilich for spotting me, helping with strategy calls. Ray Alfalo was up there too. He was helping me, determine to take 2 tires or not. Jordan Hightower was up there. Just everybody helps to make it happen. I can't do it by myself. We got to have people, eyes in the sky, seeing what happens, and help me avoid those wrecks and help make the right pit calls.
And a 6th place finish for Landon Harrison, your point leader here this evening. And it looks like, Evan, it's going to come down to Landon and Chris at this point, because looking at the point standings, I know there is still half of the season to go. There's 20 points in between 2nd and 3rd right now, or just under 20 points between 2nd and 3rd. So this one going to shape up to be a fantastic battle. We head to Michigan next week. Evan Pasoko, final thoughts from tonight at Pocono.
Nothing really surprising about tonight's race. It pretty much went exactly how I thought. If anything, maybe expecting a little bit of a longer green flag run at the midway point. I mean, I don't think we got any more than, 15, 20 laps into the green flag, maybe in that first third of the race or so. It came down to it again, where it was just caution after caution after caution. We saw a green flag this time. We actually got to race it out to the checkered flag. So that was a nice little change for once, but still the drama and the unpredictedness at the end of it. And I expect nothing less when we go forward to next week. Looking ahead at MIS, big track, big speed, should be a good race.
And that's going to do it for us here this evening. Want to thank Double Clutch once again for coming on board, for supporting the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series broadcast and LSRTV. WinOnMonday.com, place to go for all of your Double Clutch information. Tune in tomorrow night for the Maritime iRacing League. Begins at 7 p.m. Eastern. The Patterson Sales and Service 250 from the Oxford Plains Speedway. You want to see some great short track racing, that's the place to be. So for Evan Pasoko and Laura Lawson, my name is Tim Terry, saying we'll see you next week when we say let's go racing from the Michigan International Speedway. Congratulations to Chris Overland on the victory this evening at Pocono. Keep the hammer down, and we'll see you at the track.